I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite RGB code. I am joined today by Pat.
I don't even know how to answer that.
Well, you got 0 to 255. You got three
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, they're hex values.
Yeah, but I don't know any colors, the hex values off the top of my head.
Just 69, 69, 69.
That's everyone's
that would
favorite
actually
RGB code.
give you, that would probably be like some shade of gray.
Mhm. Appropriate.
And also joining us, Alex.
Let's give it like, I'm gonna give you a 3-number hex code. Let's say like B4 A.
B4A. Let's see. It's like a pink, I don't even know.
You got a lot more red, or so you have
Fuchsia,
like, quite a bit
fuchsia.
of red. You got a bit of green, and then a bit of blue. So it's a nice relaxing pink.
It's fuchsia pink.
It's relatively close to the one we used.
BB44AA. Yeah.
I think it's relatively close to the one we used in the Gaming Fix logo.
I feel like that's a little like brighter, but
it's relatively close. It's not the same value. I'm not giving away that secret sauce. Come on.
Yeah, it's Pantone. Call us Pantone Fix. I still can't believe they sell Pantone gotcha cubes. It's like, give us 100 yen and get a square in like banana yellow. Like, what?
That doesn't surprise. That sounds exactly like a thing I mean, I guess people also buy cigarettes there. I was gonna say it'd be like, it's at least gotchas are like stupid things that are harmless,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time they can be
well, mostly, yeah. There's I'm not talking about. I'm talking about physical ones.
Yeah.
Okay, like capsule machines.
Pantone
gotcha machines. Yeah.
Okay.
Pantone gotcha mobile game.
No, certainly mobile gotcha, video gotcha games can be very insidious.
Yeah, I gotta buy this $3,200.
I would say
buy a $3,200 phone so I can see more colors.
I would say the majority of digital video game gotcha games are probably a little insidious.
That's what I thought you were referring to. Okay. Anyways,
no, just
you got your Genshin Impact
store.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's some out there that are pretty great gameplay, but
some
out of the dozens that exist, if not more, most of them suck and just want to take your money.
Yeah. And take your money.
I wonder if we could.
God damn it.
Ching ching.
Oh
yeah.
It's not the reference I was expecting today.
Hey, you know what? There's always space in my life for that song.
What is the one? There's like Neil Cicierega does a song that clips that, and then he puts something else in the gunshot sounds that's very funny. But what the fuck is it? Like a Yoshi sound or something?
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
I can't remember what it. No, it's meowing. It's meowing, and then it has a Yoshi sound at the end.
Meow meow.
Well,
yeah.
Did he do that
first? Meow meow.
I mean,
meow meow.
There's Meow the Jewels, which is all
the Run the Jewels, but every instrument is meowing. Yeah.
Well, and all the swear words are meows instead of regular censored. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. LP
Meowing
is a strange
Fix. Where we record
anyway.
We record an episode of Gaming Fix and then replace every word with meows.
Always replacing the same word with the same meow.
Yeah. We have to put up like a lexicon.
Like a really
I'm getting anxiety just thinking about
big problem.
Yeah.
It's like how people learn like Klingon or like Elvish, and people can learn,
but we don't know
Meow Fix language.
But oh, I see. Yeah, because we made it up. Yeah.
That sounds.
I mean, we can work on getting cats to speak English, and then they can translate their language for us, and then we can and do a language exchange.
don't think it
then we
works
can
that
use
way. I don't think
authentic cat voice.
I don't think there's
Authentic
just
cat
like
meows.
I don't think it's possible to make like a Rosetta Stone for cat language. I'm pretty sure they communicate
Well-
on a completely different level than us.
I think it's time to train some machine learning models on friggin' cat meows.
I'm willing to bet that you could get an AI to figure out how to talk to cats, but it would
I
be
feel like they've done that. Like they're
tough.
like, this one means they're hungry. This one means they got a shit.
Yeah, there
and this
there
one
is a
means they
cat.
fucking hate you.
Yeah, there is a
so
ostensibly a cat
everyone
translation
they do
app.
that one a lot, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's you know.
Probably.
My
Well,
cat
have
doesn't
you-
really
have
hate
you,
me.
okay. Have y'all ever seen those? There's videos on YouTube of like people who have trained their cats and dogs to push buttons.
Yeah,
I
I follow a
love
lady on
those.
Instagram who did it with her dog.
Bunny.
No, Stella.
Okay, Bunny is fucking awesome. Bunny is the one who had the existential crisis of saying like hitting the buttons for who's this, and then looked in the mirror, and then the mother says, "That's Bunny. It's Bunny," and then it just cuts to the dog, like looking out a window for about 10 seconds, and then walking back to the button that says "Help." It's really good. I'll find it. I'll put it in
I
the show
don't-
notes.
I think I love those videos. I don't know how much I believe that the dogs necessarily know what they're
You should-
doing. I think
You should
some of it's
watch the bunny
staged.
ones. I think the bunny
Yeah.
ones are legit.
All I'm saying is that if a dog is that intelligent to communicate with buttons that effectively, then I'm surprised that the dog has not been forcibly removed to a lab to study it, you know? Like
Yeah.
some of
I
it's
mean,
pretty
that's-
wild.
That is a pessimistic way to look at it, but I also don't disagree.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like there was a similar thing with the dog I'm talking about, like a similar like.
But I'm sure it's a combination of
like,
things.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
I'm-
also some good cat ones that are interesting.
Because you can train a dog to do all kinds of stuff. I doubt that it's meant maliciously either. I'm not saying that I think the owners of the dog are like
Yeah.
trying to lie to the world in order to make social media money or something.
No. This lady with Stella, she wrote a book. So if she's grifting, she's all the way in, and not just social media. So
Also,
Yeah.
I am sure you could train a dog to do things like push the button that says "feed me" when the dog wants a treat and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Of course, you could do that.
Totally.
does the
I
name
mean-
Pavlov ring a bell?
Yeah. I mean, more. I doubt that in the who's this help video that the dog was like
Yeah,
trying
exactly.
to ask, what is this animal in the mirror? Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
me. I can't process these feelings. Help me.
I don't
But
have
what-
object permanence.
Yeah.
But what if that is exactly what happened?
Yeah.
Existential fix.
Yep.
then
Existential.
then dogs wouldn't be eating their own poop.
Hey, what if it tastes good? What if they're
Yeah,
onto
what
something
if-
and we're not?
What if we've been missing out on it?
We just play poop
Apparently,
games sometimes.
dogs really love eating cat poop in particular because apparently
Oh,
it's
yes.
it's a little sweeter.
They sure do. Let me tell you from experience.
Lock up
It
your
is
litter
much
boxes.
sweeter.
It's lucky that we have a oh God. There is a gate so that the dog cannot go
Right.
to where the cat can jump over and the dog cannot get over.
That's an
that
episode title.
Separates
It's much sweeter.
the rest of the apartment from the bathroom where the litter box is. Thankfully, the door creaks loud enough on the bathroom that I can
Given
hear
some
it.
Warning.
Yeah, so if I hear the door creak and I can look and see if make sure the gate's closed and that the dog is not in there.
Yep. Then you can be like, oh god,
Wow.
the dog is trying to eat cat dump.
It happens less now. She's better about it now because she also gets in trouble when she does it. But for a while there, it was like if you just looked away from her and there was access, she was going to get in there and root around in the litter box.
Well, Pat, let me pose a hypothetical to you.
Yes.
You're sitting in your like racing rig in your seat. You got
Yep.
your wheel, you got your monitors pulled down, you got your whole situation set up. And then you hear that door creak. You look over. The door is closed or no, the gate is open, the door is open. You see the dog going into that bathroom, but you're in the middle of a 24-hour race. Your team, they're on your back. What do you do?
I probably aggressively yell for my partner to go take care of the situation.
Nope. No,
and
your
if
partner
she's
is on Mars.
in that case, the dog is probably going to eat some cat poop because I can't.
Nothing stops.
There is no. Yeah, you can't. You can't
No
pull over. No, you can't pull over and get out of the car to go deal with the cat poop situation.
Yeah, you can't deal with the force of nature.
No. I'm assuming that's a segue to talk about the fact that last weekend I was out because I raced the iRacing 24 Hours of Le Mans.
That was complete hypothetical, no basis in reality or anything to do with anything we're talking about on the show.
One of the key things when you do a 24-hour race is just setting up your environment so elements, things like that don't happen.
Get your bedpan,
make sure, for example, the cat is happening in real time right now. Sometimes the cat wants to come sit in my lap. So I have to make sure that everything's set up. So that's not going to happen. For example,
they'll let the cat sit in your lap before the race.
You have to get your water.
Make sure it's sick of you.
I drank a large beer at one point during one of my stints. Don't drink and drive, but when it's simulation racing, fucking cares. And
simulation police are going to get you.
And I mean, it was like, just to clarify for listeners, it was a large can of a very low ABV beer. So it was not a getting drunk behind the wheel of a sim rig situation. We saved that for dirt racing. Because I had to pee so bad, I had an opportunity to do what's called triple stinting my tires because it was nighttime in the sim. So the tires, normally you change your tires every couple hours when you swap out the driver. If the track's hot enough, you change them every hour. But at nighttime, the track is cool enough that you can drive on one set of tires for 3 hours instead of 2 hours. And what that ends up doing on our team, it saved us about 10 seconds to do it that way because it takes 20 seconds or so to change the tires. And we were able to only lose about a second a lap on the last 10 laps or so of the stint. So, a little slower than being on fresh tires, but we saved the 20-second tire change time. Anyway, an opportunity to triple stint my tires, and then I chose not to because I had to pee real bad and didn't think I could drive for another hour without going to the bathroom. So you have to prep yourself in many ways. But yeah, if to kind of up front, this it really is a 24-hour endurance race in iRacing. It starts
not for one person though, right? This is a team of people.
For the 24-hour races, I don't even believe you can register as a solo. You might be able to, but yes, you have to have at least two people. My racing group had one team that actually won their stint or their slot. Split is what we call it, and they were a 2-man team. So one of them drove 10 hours and one of them drove 14 hours, which is wild. They don't even do that in real life anymore. That's they used to in like the 60s. If you've seen the film Ford versus Ferrari, which good movie, I would recommend.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know if I think it was deserving of Academy Awards, but it's good. But yeah, they used to do that, but now that's usually 3 or 4-man teams for Le Mans. But yeah, you're driving a real 24 hours, and the structure is someone qualifies so that that sets your starting grid where everybody's starting on track. There are up to 3 classes of car. So there are the GT endurance cars, which are they look almost like they're like race car versions of production cars, kind of. So like we drove the Porsche GTE car. It looks kind of like a Porsche 911 or something that you would see very wealthy people driving around, except that it has like aero kits on it and a big spoiler and stuff. And then there are the Le Mans prototype 2s, which are they look kind of like spaceships that drive instead of fly around. And then there's the LMP ones, which are even faster and have like a boost button where they harvest energy and braking and then can burn it when they are on straights.
Some like Formula E kind of shit.
Yep. Yeah. Formula One cars have it too. So all three of these different classes of cars are racing on the same circuit. They're not racing against each other. They're racing against other cars in their class, but they all go at different speeds. So we were in the GTE class, which is the slowest, which means, and in our split, we only ended up with P2s. We didn't have any P1s. So we just had these P2 cars, which are a lot faster. They pass you fairly regularly because they're racing their own race. But yeah, you do your qualifying and then somebody starts the race. It's a rolling start. And then your car's going for 24 hours. You're stopping every couple hours to swap drivers and take tires. You have to stop every hour or so for fuel in the GTE. And
so how does that work in the actual video game sense? Like, is basically one person spectating and then there's a button you push to swap the driver?
Yep, that's exactly it. So you can as long as you iRacing is a 13-year-old program at this point that is built on a 20-year-old NASCAR game. So
I didn't know that part. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is still arguably the best sim in the world. There's some people who will say there's other ones that are better. It's phenomenal. They've done tons of visual updates to it over the years. It certainly doesn't look like, Forza Horizon or something, but it actually it looks pretty nice at certain moments. The cars look pretty good. Mostly it's just like the trees and some of the level geometry that is off track that can look a little like it's from 13 years ago, but it's hardly matters when you're doing it. But it is definitely the reason I bring that up is because you have to own the track in one of the cars in order to spectate a race. So it's not really a spectator feature that you can just do for like, oh, I just want to watch this friend of mine race. You can, but you have to own pieces of content to do it. But in this case, when you're all on the same team, you're registered to the session as a team. When you are spectating your teammate, you can step in as their crew chief, which means you can set up their pit stops for them, which isn't that big of a deal. It sounds crazy, but once you get used to driving, it's pretty easy to set up the pit stop in your car. And then you can also, when the car is stopped in the pits, there is a button to remove the driver. So you basically kick the person that's driving out, and then you jump in the car
into the air out of an ejector seat,
more or less.
Ragdoll.
And then it adds like 30 seconds to the pit stop for a driver swap, which is often, I don't know if it's true for that particular endurance series that includes Le Mans, but generally they have like safety rules for swapping out drivers. So you have to stop for a minimum amount of time when you swap drivers, just to make sure that nobody's cutting corners on like not strapping in all the way and stuff before they leave the pits. It's also very funny in real life endurance racing, since people are different sizes, so that they don't have to adjust the seat at all, because race car seats don't really move like your standard road car. The shorter drivers have like cushions attached to their butts, so they jump in the car with a big old cushion attached to their butt. It looks like they have poop in their pants, and they run to the car.
Awesome. So it's like basically
it's very funny,
shoving a telephone book down your pants.
Sort of, yeah. It's very similar. And they're like, except they're like fully cupping them because they have to provide some lumbar support too. So
wow, ergonomic butt pillows.
Yes. But in sim racing, you don't have to do that, at least. But what's cool,
nothing's stopping you.
But the thing that's crazy about endurance racing is there are no like take backs or anything. Like, if you fuck the car, if you've been driving the car for 10 hours and you fuck the car and it's dead because somebody hit you or you hit a wall, it's over. You're done. That's too bad. But
it's also awesome because it means it's actual. There's like, you do actually have to take take
there's
care.
serious stakes. You can do things like tap a wall, or if you get into these cars are generally pretty, they're not like F1 cars. They're pretty durable. That's part of the whole reason. I mean, they're built to be durable because this is their primary function is racing and endurance racing. So typically you're not going to get totally killed from one accident or one bang into the wall, as long as you didn't hit it at full speed. And then in the pits, one thing that iRacing is not great at is the damage model is a little wonky at times. iRacing is like a phenomenal simulator when everyone is and everything is going well. When things start to go poorly, it does get a little wonky. Not so much that it doesn't model the damage well when it happens. It's more that you could like hit a wall going 40, 50 miles an hour and totally fuck your steering so that the car feels terrible to drive. And then you go to the pit stops and it's like, oh, it's a 2-minute repair, when that's the kind of thing that would probably kill a car in some situations. Yeah. Or you can have situations where like you barely tap a wall and it's like, 20 minutes of optional repairs to get the car feeling good again. And you're like, what are you talking about? There's a Jimmy Broadbent is like a very famous sim racer. He races real cars too now, but got to start sim racing. In his split, he hit a wall, and it might have even been a netcode issue, but he hit a wall and totally screwed up the car. And they took it to the pits, and they took the repair time, but it still felt bad, which can happen. There's sometimes that the damage isn't bad enough for them to force you to retire the car, but there's no way for them to fix it to make it feel good again. And then another person on the team ran it into a different wall, and then it fixed the steering. And they were able to continue the race.
So that's the real
on the other side.
That's the way they do it in real life.
So anyway, all that damage stuff is fully there. We had one of the teams in my group. They got screwed in the middle of the night. And what's wild is like, our split started at midnight on Friday. It actually started around 1 a.m. The server opened at midnight. And so I stayed up until about 2 a.m. watching the driver who started it until another team member could take over spotting, because you generally don't want to leave someone alone. iRacing has an in-game spotter for the actual purpose of spotting cars for you, but you want to have somebody there to talk you through stuff and to talk about like, okay, on that lap, you could have done this and this and this, because again, like you're talking about trying to gain positions over a 24-hour period. So like, and it's also on a track that has 4-minute lap times, which is very long. So
but when you're doing that for over and over and over again.
But what's interesting about it is if you're talking about an hour long, like F1 race, you need to get, and we practiced for weeks ahead of this as well, but if you're talking about an hour long F1 race, if you're like a second off the pace, it's like, that's an enormous deficit. And it's unlikely that you're going to be able to run 4 or 5 laps with us being a second off the pace and then still remain competitive with the front of the field. Because they're out of the 60 laps you might do in that race, that being 5 seconds then off the leader is devastating to your race. When you're talking about a 4-minute lap over 24 hours, you can be a second down and then talk through it and go like, okay, why were we a second down there? Where can we tighten this up and totally get back on it and take somebody?
It sounds to me like I understand that because I play a lot of Trackmania, and it's because Trackmania is that in a tiny microcosm form, right? Like you are constantly
just against yourself instead of like worrying about other people. Yeah.
Right. So your spotter is yourself and you're checking out your split times and okay. So that makes total sense considering it from that perspective.
And imagine racing one track for 24 hours straight, trying to get your time down.
I can understand why that would be appealing to some people, but so for the team you were doing it with, how many time zones did you span in order to properly?
So 4, we had a 4-person team. And there was a driver on East Coast time, and then a driver on like Central Europe time, and then a driver that was in Southeast Asia. So
that makes total sense.
So it worked out really well because it meant that we were stretched out really easily.
Zones.
Like
so
the team
during the day, not overnight.
The team that ran with just 2 people, I believe they had someone in Central time in the US and Eastern time. So when you get into that situation, you're staying up all night.
Yeah, at least someone. Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about like the most, one of them, I think, drove 7 stints in a row, maybe.
What is a stint?
So in their car, a stint, that's like a stint in racing motorsport terms is like your time between pit stops.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
so there, or in endurance racing, it also refers to like how long you drive. He didn't drive for 7. He had to pit during that. He drove 7 stints. So he drove 7 pit stops. But in their car, it's different for every car. They were driving a P2 or P1, which I want to say stops every like 40 minutes instead of every hour. So it's different time than our car. But anyway, it's a really awesome sense of community and stuff. We ended up finishing P5 out of 20 cars in our class, which felt awesome to get that high when it was 2 of our team's first endurance race. And it's definitely like a very much like, okay, when can we do this again? Because this was awesome and I want to do it again as soon as possible.
Is it a yearly thing, or is it the kind of thing where they do it like you can do it every month if you have like a bush league, basically? Le Mans is generally a yearly thing, but there's several different tracks. Like next weekend, we are racing the 24 Hours of Spa. We wanted to do a silly mega team where we race in a bunch of different slots. I don't think it's going to happen because we couldn't get enough people to commit to it. And even if a couple of the other people and I agreed to drive 14 hours over the weekend, we couldn't get it to work. And I said I was tapped out at 14 hours. I'm not doing more than that in 2 days. But that will be really fun. That track is more of a traditional circuit. Le Mans is like very much built for the 24 hours of Le Mans. It includes public roads in addition to circuit sections. The Spa is a track that is just a racing circuit, and the lap times are closer to like, I think they're probably like 1:20 in these cars. That's going to be all GT3 cars. So GT3 cars are even more closer to you could just go and buy a GT3 car if you wanted to. It would cost you $500,000, but you could do it if you were rich and just had the money laying around. And people do. There are amateur drivers who race in GT3 cars. So that will be a lot of fun. The following week on a Friday, That's why that Porsche's named the 911 GT3. Got it.
Yes. Yep.
Got it.
There's GT3s, there's GT4s. GT4s are even like babyier cars. They're even closer to just like regular old road cars.
Did they say I'm baby uwu?
If you ask multi-class drivers, they'll tell you that all the GT cars say I'm baby uwu as they pass you. There is constant like salt between different classes of drivers because P2 drivers will be like, get the fuck out of my way. And GTE drivers are like, fuck off, pass me when you pass me. I had one incident, it didn't turn into an incident, thankfully. There were 4 P2s. None of them were racing each other. They were all on different laps because everybody gets spread out across, like there'll be people that are laps up and laps down. And I came into a corner complex that is very tight and very hard to drive at Le Mans, and there is no room to pass, but they were going to pass me there, even though there's a long straight that would have been easy for them to pass me on right after it. And I ended up getting sandwiched between 4 P2s, and I had like a jokerification moment where in our Discord call, I started being like, fuck off, what the fuck? I mean, they couldn't hear me because they weren't any of our drivers, but yeah. I had to yell there, so I didn't yell in the actual voice. They need proximity chat.
They need proximity chat.
They have, they have voice chat. You can
open your window and yell out at the people. Push a button to like flip them off.
Yeah, I was going to say like
voice chat off.
I was going to say you need like some kind of camera pointed at you so it can track like you as your driver, like have like the windshield being taken up by your face so they can see you double middle finger flipping off
you
at
can
each other.
At least you can flash your headlights at people. That is one I pissed somebody off because there was another GTE car that we were 2 laps up on that was very slow, and they wouldn't let me around. And so I flashed, or I wouldn't even say that. They were annoying to drive behind, but I found a way to get around them, and I flashed them, not to be rude, but to let them know I was passing them. And then they started like flashing me aggressively after I got around them. And I was like, man, I was just letting you know I was going by. I wasn't trying to be an ass.
You should write a script that basically just flashes your lights like crazy. Like you push a button on your Elgato Stream Deck Mark II, which we'll get to in news. And then it just goes brrrr.
You could. It would suck for you if it was at night, it would suck for you because in a lot of those cars, it turns the lights, it like flashes them all the way on and off. It doesn't flash them between brights and not brights. So it's like a strobe effect.
It's like a strobe.
It's a little rough, but yeah, it's fun,
baby.
We're doing, there's different lengths of endurance. I'm doing the 4 hours of Roval in 2 weeks as well, which is Roval is the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, which is, it's called the Roval because it's a speedway. It's like I think it's a 1.5 mile speedway that they race NASCAR on, but then it also has a interior oval that is smaller. So in the Roval, you start off, the first turn is turning into the smaller, kind of more rectangular oval on the infield, and then you race that, and then you have to navigate out onto the super speedway, and then there's a couple of chicanes they build just so that you're not just going straight.
Really? What does that term mean in racing? Because I know what it means in French.
So it's like a kind of like a tight kink. It's like if you took the road and then squished it. So it'll be like not fast. A very tight left-hand corner followed directly by a very tight right-hand corner followed by another left-hander to get back going straight. So you end up coming out of the chicane going the same direction as you were coming into it.
In French, a chicane is when you have an argument or like you're yelling at each other. So
yeah, it's an argument with the road for sure. And they can be left or right. It doesn't.
I wake up every day and I turn left, right, left, and then I pound on the wall.
One of the things they do to make because Daytona is also
excuse me, Daytona.
Exactly. Yes, it's also a endurance track. They have a road course there, and one of the things they do on those ovals to make them more interesting is they put chicanes on the straights so that you're not just driving on a long straightaway. Even at Le Mans in the 60s, there's this stretch of road called the Mulsanne Straight that just was a flat out, people just drove straight through it. And it was pretty dangerous because you would max out the speed of your car and then have to go into a very tight right-hand corner with a downhill braking zone. And so they added chicanes to that straight to make it a little more passing opportunities because cars have to slow down and a little less dangerous. So anyway, yeah, we'll be racing the 24 hours of Daytona will happen. I think there's 2 24 hours of Daytona because iRacing doesn't have the rights to the 24 hours of Le Mans because I believe it's Motorsport Games who makes R Factor has the rights to 24 hours of Le Mans, like the official ones, but iRacing has the Le Mans track. So most of these races that are in these 24-hour races are event races. Like 24 Hours of Spa is separate from any of their official racing series. It's like its own event, but they can't do that with Le Mans because they don't have the license to call a race like the 24 Hours of Le Mans event. So instead what they did was they built a 6-race series with 24-hour endurance races every week or 2 weeks maybe that works just like all their other standard racing series that you do. And they're just like, what? Just Le Mans happens to be one of the tracks in there. It's not called the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but there happens to be a 24-hour race at Le Mans in this series. It's also got Hockenheim and Daytona in it. What do you want from us? We didn't do anything wrong. And they did the whole series. The whole series exists so that they could do a 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's pretty funny. Anyway, iRacing, endurance racing. It's cool. It's fun. It's hard.
Well, after spending so much time in the cockpit, I'm sure you needed to get out,
Absolutely not.
Stretch your
I've been driving like 3 hours a night for the past week because since we did kind of okay, now I'm like, all right, well, I want to get better so that I can continue to I want to taste sweet victory.
Oh, I meant your game legs. Surely you're stretching your game legs and you're journeying about Eorzea, or
I played a little bit of Final Fantasy this week, but I'm close to the end of Stormblood, so I'm in that place right now where I'm like, I got plenty of time. It'll only take me like a day of gaming to get through the rest of Stormblood, and then
I need to get back
broadly,
to that,
what's the kind of area you're in, I suppose, or what's the kind of
I just did Emanation, which is the trial where you fight what's her name, the snake goddess Primal.
would it be
whatever her name is?
Yes, it's like a like Hindi name, and I don't want to butcher it, but yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, cool fight. Good mechanics.
That was not meant to be a segue, and that was just
no. I'll just keep it brief for these two because we talked about Le Mans for a long time. But I played F1 2021. I actually had access to it early, but I wasn't on the podcast last week, so I couldn't talk about it very much.
Wasn't it embargoed anyway?
It was. I could have talked about the first part of the story mode which is mostly what I want to bring up here. F1 2021, the visual upgrade is pretty astounding in it. It looks really fucking good. It's one of the best racing games I've ever, like racing games based on real stuff that I've seen before. The lighting is beautiful, and I'm not even playing with ray tracing on because I like high frame rate in racing games. It's still probably the best. It's the best Simcade game that is like close to being a sim that's still forgiving enough to be easy to play with a controller.
Shift.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, it's the best of those that exists. I think it's a good year to get into it. If you, I would say if you don't have any interest in Formula One and you just like racing games, it's probably not for you because all it has is Formula One. In Formula Two, but they've done cool things. Like one of my favorite, it's silly, but one of my favorite parts of the F1 race every week is it has this like very dramatic intro that's like bum 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 bum, and then there's this big like drum fill, and then it's got this very epic music, and then after they play the intro, the commentators come in and they'll be like, we're in Spa in France for the whatever Grand Prix the Spa is this year. And then they like go through each of the corners while the intense music plays in the background, and they tell you about the track, and they show historic moments. All that presentation stuff is way better in the game this year. It's not quite perfect to reality, but they do the music, they do the track layout, they do the like all that stuff leading into it. They banter a little bit about the state of the championship and stuff. So
it's bombastic.
when you start a career, very famous F1 journalist opens the career with like talking about like, it's been a strange year and F1 allows some folks to return to a sense of normalcy. And like they lean hard into talking about COVID without talking about COVID. And that stuff is kind of fun. But mostly I think the thing that's good for new players is there's a pretty interesting story mode called Breaking Point that they kind of brought back this year and expanded. It's neat because it's sort of a career mode situation. You start by you're playing a character named Aiden Jackson, which is like, can be entered into the boring protagonist name Hall of Fame. He's like a young up and coming British driver. He wins the Formula 2 series. The first race is you controlling him in the end of Formula 2, his Formula 2 career, which is like the feeder development series for Formula 1. And then he gets fast tracked into F1 and he joins one of a few different teams. You get to pick which team you're on. And then the story focuses on his relationship with his teammate, who is a kind of older veteran of the sport, which is a very typical thing in F1. There's usually like the younger hotshot driver paired with an older, maybe past their prime driver.
Like Lethal Weapon.
Sure.
Driving.
Yeah, sure. And the story is not particularly good from a like writing perspective, because I mean it's
shallow.
Codemasters. It's not bad either. It's not like the dialogue is fine, and it's delivered pretty well, and it's all animated pretty okay.
It is what it needs to be.
Yeah, you can't expect it's as good. It's maybe not as dynamic, but I would say it's generally on par with EA Sports's like prior story mode attempts and things like Madden and stuff.
Which is to say in the game.
Well, it does have that now at the beginning of of it, because this is the first. Now. Yeah.
I don't play EA Sports games, so I don't know. Didn't know they still did.
Oh yeah,
in the game.
It's actually a new little splash thing, because now it includes F1, and it's like a whole like it shows all the sports swirling around, and then it still I want to say it still says EA Sports. It's in the game at the end of the little animation,
the same dude doing the voice.
I don't know. I think it's the same dude. It doesn't sound as like you're about to get fucked the way that the old one did. The old one was like the old one felt like violent in a way.
EA Sports, you're about to get fucked.
Yeah. So anyway, I think I don't want to spoil it for people, but that Breaking Point story does some really interesting stuff, I think, from a like narrative perspective situation as you play it. And I think it's worth checking out if you're into Formula One already. If you are someone who buys these games every year, I think the package is good enough to justify buying it this. If you bought 2020 and were like, oh, this is cool, this is an upgrade from 2019, you're gonna like this one a lot, because it's a bigger upgrade, I think, in every sense. If you're someone who bought 2019 and said you'd skip 2020, this is a good time to buy it. If you are someone who's extremely pessimistic about yearly sports titles and you just buy them to complain about them, I guess do you. I know people who do that. And
how about for people who have never touched an F1 game? Like,
I think it's good.
Like it is a reasonable like learning curve and point
that's the thing that Breaking Point is good about is it doesn't give you the career mode is fairly deep in these games, because there's lots of car stuff you can do, lots of upgrades and stuff. You can choose to do a career where you drive for another team or make your own team and stuff. There's a lot of meat there. Breaking Point is kind of interesting because it doesn't have you just do the driving parts. You don't do the team management stuff. And it also gives you certain situations. So it'll be like, okay, you're at the Brazilian Grand Prix. There's 9 laps remaining. You need to catch up to your teammate by lap 15 or whatever. And they're shortened races than from real life. But then once you get caught up to him at lap 15, then it'll play a cutscene where it's like, oh, they're racing really close together, and then they crash into each other and both of them crash out of the race and stuff. So it gives you these kind of scenarios where there's one that's interesting where you're like recovering from having had a flat tire. So you have to drive the car back to the pits, and then the pit stop happens, and then you have to do a recovery drive and try to get positions back. So it gives you a good spread of different racing situations. And then from there, you can finish that. It's like 6 hours long. It's not super long. You finish it, and then you can go play a career where it's more complex and deep, and there's more going on, and it doesn't have those same scripted things happening. And everything's a little more generated and dynamic.
Nice. That sounds quite adventurous and fun. Sort of like the exploits of a young wizard whose book was published in 1999.
Oh, yeah. 97, actually, which 97, I can tell you because I also briefly touched Gran Turismo Sport on the encouragement of some racing friends, which is a way better game than it got credit for at the time I think. It's kind of a shame that game didn't stick around in the discourse at all, and people just kind of wrote it off. But it's really good. It's more, I described it as being closer to like pod racing than iRacing, because it's definitely like Sim-E. You can you change the brake bias and fuel maps and stuff. but like
People
the
just
cars
die all the time, constantly.
No, it's more that the cars don't feel like the best way to drive in that game is with the nose cam, not the cockpit cam. In iRacing, you have to drive in the cockpit cam. In Gran Turismo, you can drive in whatever camera you want, but the nose cam is the one that gives you the best feel. So you don't really see your car at all. And the cars all kind of feel the same. They're a little different from car to car. It's just different top speeds and braking points and stuff. They don't feel like the cars have like, I can't tell you like, oh, the McLaren has a little more power on the low end, so you have to baby it out of corners a little more, or you can go around or something like I can for Assetto Corsa or one of these other sims. Instead, it's more like, I don't fucking know, this car goes faster than that car. But it's still incredibly fun in that respect, like given all that. The main thing I want to talk about though is the fucking menus are buck wild, and they should be in like the MoMA. It like it like cycles through screenshots of cars looking really pretty because the game is gorgeous even by today's standards. I was playing it on PS5 and it's stunning. What? And then it'll occasionally just pop up with like news from like 1995. Amazon ships its first package, in between like pictures of cars and bits and pieces of news about cars. It's fucking wild, and I can't believe more people weren't talking about it. I was about ready to scream in like disbelief when it popped up and said 1997 J.K. Rowling publishes, which is also a funny thing to say because I don't think she published it, but
close enough.
But J.K. Rowling publishes Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I was like, why are you telling me this? Fuck that. And also, why are you telling me this? It's very funny.
Yeah, you sent us all these screenshots, and it was just like, this seems like okay.
1964, IBM creates the first operating system.
Yeah, like that was the one that broke me. I was like, what? Why? Who? What?
1993.
Some context.
New universe, new mappings prove that we are in an infinite expanding universe. Yeah, it's when you go to the museum in the menu, it makes a little bit more sense because it puts like automotive history on the top and then like non-automotive history at the bottom. So it gives you a little bit of context of like, oh, in 63 Mercedes did this thing, and at the same time this was happening in history, and it gives you like kind of an interesting tie between world events and events in the automotive world. But in the main menu, it just scrolls between the two things randomly, and it's like brain shattering and very funny.
I wish this was on PC so that you could mod it, so I could be like, 2012, Alex's roommate Zach shits his pants.
Yeah. Man, why are you gonna do Zach?
You're gonna put Zach on blast like that?
Oh, don't worry, he's well aware. There was one time he was on a date.
I would hope he's well aware.
But he's well aware that I bring it up. Like, he was on a date, and like the very first thing I said to his date upon meeting her was, "Oh, hey, did you know that Zach shit his pants?" And she just kind of looked at me and then kind of looked at him. It was very much our humor at the time, and
it's fair.
She ended up being completely fine with it. She thought it was hilarious, and
I mean,
she's still a very good friend.
I won't, not to go back. That's all I have about Gran Turismo. Not to go back to iRacing at all. This isn't about iRacing, but when we were talking, a couple of the people I race with and I were talking about the 24 hours of Spa, I was like, you know what we need to do? We need to race the 24 hours of Ska. No, we need to race 24 hours of Ska and make a Ska car, and then make a 24-hour Ska playlist, and then we can all listen to it together because Discord has Spotify integration.
Is it just like a car with like a checkerboard pattern?
Oh, it'll happen. That'll be part of it. We haven't done the work yet. One thing I've learned when you're racing with a group, you spend a lot of time in Discord calls staring at someone working in Photoshop. Every car this person makes has Carly Rae Jepsen on it too, so she'll fit right in with the Ska car.
Carly Rae Jepsen skanking.
No, it's the specific one. It's one specific picture.
How dare you?
Skanking, not skank. Anyway,
it ended up the other two nights. Thursday night, we were we made a 24 hours of Ska playlist that was like actually earnest and included like some two-tone and some Jamaican Ska along with Third Wave. And that's this playlist that I really hope we listen to that one. There's also one called The 24 Hours of Ska, but better, and it's 436 instances of Superman by Goldfinger, and then one instance of 99 Red Balloons by Goldfinger.
Hell yeah.
And Thursday night we listened to it for like 6 hours, and then we ended up getting 99 Red Balloons at one point while it was on shuffle. And the girlfriend thing made me think of it because my partner, every like 5 to 10 minutes we'd go, man, this song fucking rips, or this is a great song, I love this part of the song. And she was like, are you still listening to Superman over and over again?
Here I am,
holding on to what I am.
Yeah, anyway, I hope that there's not a sincere, I have a feeling that for the meme people will sincerely try to push that we listen to that playlist during 24 Hours of Ska.
man. I agree.
Well, wow, that's dedication.
Racing, it builds camaraderie, friendships. I can understand.
It destroys you from the inside out with ska.
So what's great is that pretty much everyone in this group, there's a couple of younger people, but pretty much everyone is already destroyed. And we're just bringing our broken husks of who we are together to do things
filling it with Superman. But
it's less that we're harming each other and more that we've already been harmed. We're just commiserating.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of people who are, I don't know, husks or something, I don't know. I played a game.
I thought you were going to talk about Final Fantasy.
No. I played a game came out a few months ago. It Takes Two.
Yeah.
Which is from Joseph Fares, who made Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, and A Way Out. When did this game came out? This came out in March, end of March this year. It's like A Way Out. It's a co-op game. You have to play it co-op with either someone online or someone on the couch. And because it was my birthday this week, I used that as an opportunity to say, hey, what if I got a new PS5 controller so we could play games together? And so my girlfriend got me the red PS5 controller. Nice. It's pretty slick. I was like, I could get the black one, but I don't know, I like that red. And so I got the red. It's nice. And then I also got like the charging thing. So now I don't have to worry about like, oh, I got to plug in the charger. They're always charged. Cool. The little wireless charger looks like a little PS5. Like if you cut off the top of a PS5, it looks like that. Just like a little bit shrunk. Anyway, It Takes Two. Much like A Way Out, this you play this game in like split screen. If you're always split screen, even if you're playing with someone online, I believe. And you're playing a couple, British couple, who are on the verge of divorce. They are planning it. I think they've told their daughter. I believe that is, yeah, they've talked to the daughter about it, like, hey, we're getting divorced. But they're still at each other's throats and like, oh, you didn't do this, I'm busy, you're supposed to take care of that, and arguing and stuff. And the daughter is not stoked on it, and basically through the magic of sadness and family turns her parents into some dolls she made of them, not on purpose as far as I can tell, but basically takes their consciousness and puts it into like this clay doll for her dad and this wooden doll for her mom. And they're all tiny and they're like, oh shit, we're stuck in these bodies and we need to talk to our daughter and get her to let us out. And so you're based on that setup, you'd think this game would be much more like solemn than it is, because the beginning is pretty like heavy and not heavy-handed, just divorce stuff, and then it quickly goes into like slapstick and like lighthearted jokes about like, oh, now we're these dolls and we can't die, and here's this talking relationship book with a Mexican accent, and who plays like Spanish guitar underneath and things like that when you're talking. And it's good. Like the environments are really creative. You're going around areas like the shed, and you're finding tools like, oh, this hammer is like, oh, I'm all rusty, and I was supposed to be fixed, but then I was just left here not fixed. And you're like, oh, well, now I got to help this hammer, because then the hammer is going to help me get to my daughter. And then so it'll divide up like, oh, okay, one person will get the hammer, the other person will get nails, and you'll use the hammer and nails to solve the puzzles. And so it does a good job of breaking up the division of who gets what, and like you're always doing different things. The two people aren't doing the same thing, which keeps it interesting, because if he was just like, oh, one person can do everything, or you can like switch back and forth, maybe you would focus on doing one thing. Or
are there limitations on what one character can do versus the other? Like if there's a hammer and a nail, like
you'll get like an item at the start of a sequence. So like with a hammer and the nail, like the mom, May gets the hammer, and then Cody, the husband, gets the nails. Okay. And so you like, based on those characters, then they have to use those items. Or like later on, you get like the ability to grow and shrink, or like you get like a sap gun and like a match gun that can blow up the sap. And so like all those different things, like one person gets one thing, the other person gets the one, and that's their weapon for the section, or their item for the section. So you're getting good and like learning how to use, okay, I'm learning how to use this one item. And then working together, because you can't solve any one puzzle with just one item. You have to like work together and be like, okay, so like you hit this with the hammer, and then I'll shoot it with with a nail to like keep up this platform, so it will like not fall down or rise up anymore. Stuff like that.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I know something that the PC version of this game does is, it gives you basically a guest pass, so
yes,
that like
the PS5 version also does.
It does that. That's cool. Yeah. I think that's a really smart way to do it.
Yeah, they did a PS5 update, but then if you just buy it, you just get the PS4 and the PS5 version, and then you get a guest pass for either PS5 or PS4 that you can use. I assume you can only use it once. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not trying to play with anyone online, but yeah, like that is a thing that is available, and you can do.
I'll ask a friend. Not right now, but I'll ask.
Yeah, it's I would say it's definitely worth checking out. Like each level is about an hour-ish to beat. Probably faster if you're better at games than my girlfriend. Like, because she gets like, where am I supposed to look? What am I do? What am I supposed to do? So I have to like walk her through like, oh no, it's okay. More to your right, more to your right. No, okay, back to your left. Or okay, you got to jump on this thing, stuff like that. Sometimes she gets it, but there's a lot of times where she's like,
It looks like the friend pass, you can just do it with anyone.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like limited. I assume there's limited uses. I don't know how like if you just like send it to someone, or like I don't know how it works, like how it like actually works. But yeah, there is a friend pass, so you don't both need to own the game. Just one of you needs to buy it, and then the other person has to join you.
The first level is free to play for anyone who downloads the friends pass. If you're playing with a friend who owns the full game, you can join them on the entire adventure for free. So it seems it seems to not it does not tie it to the account of the full game owner. It's just if you're playing it with someone who owns the game, you can play the entire thing. So that seems relatively generous.
Sense. Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of really positive things about the game, honestly.
Oh, maybe you have to. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Like it looks beautiful. The puzzles are really like fun and pretty unique, I think. They've got stuff like the humor is pretty good. Like I met some squirrels, and like their whole sequence really made me just kind of bust up laughing, just because they're super militarized and fighting wasps. They're like, we need you to go kill the wasps, and then if you kill the wasp, then we'll let you go. And as you're going through, like the whole thing is like, oh, you're supposed to be learning like collaboration and how to reconcile your relationship. And so that stuff I'm like iffy on. Like there's no one way to like fully capture the complexities and experience of like divorce as like a child or a parent or, you know, as a couple or whatever. It just like, for me, that stuff doesn't really hit because like, well, my parents are divorced, did nothing like the couple in the game, like their issues, nothing like that. So, you know, that I can't really speak to, but like throughout the game, you're coming across like, oh, these are the tools that you said you were going to fix and then you just never fixed because you were busy. Or there's my underwear. You like those underwear. I used to like those underwear on you, you know, or like, here's all our family pictures. Why are they in this tree with these squirrels? What is going on? You know, stuff like that. So you're like, and you're constantly bouncing between like, oh, this is fun. And like, oh, we just did like a fun mini game together. And like, you know, play like a weird Game Boy game. And then also like, no, it's her fault. And like, she's the reason we're in this mess and blah, blah, blah. So it can feel a little weird at times like that, at least to me. But, you know, maybe that rings true to some people, but like the in level, like quips and stuff don't necessarily match up with the storytelling in the cutscenes. Ludonarrative dissonance. There you go. But it's a good game and it's a lot of fun. Like it's kind of the only game where I'm like looking forward to playing it at the moment. Like I've been playing like a few other things. Like I'm still playing Cruelty Squad, which when I'm playing it and I get to like a funny thing or like a weird thing, I'm like, holy shit, this game. But then also it feels like almost a chore to like boot it up just because of the difficulty and like the visuals are like kind of headache inducing at times.
I played some Cruelty Squad as well. I think I like that game quite a lot, but it's definitely
there's a lot going on and it's
you
good.
Say not you, but people say they think of BioShock or Last of Us when they talk about games as art. I say Cruelty Squad is fucking another game that should be in the MoMA. Like, and actually, I'm serious. That is
it should be its own exhibit. Like, fully,
that game
3D recreated. Yeah,
that game rules in many ways, but it is also fucked in many ways, and that's part of it and intentional.
Go in and kill a dude sitting on basically a throne of Funko Pops.
Yeah. Kill like a weird moving cube of meat that used to be a person.
Chief of police or something. Yeah. And maybe he was like the pharmaceutical guy.
And then reload your gun by holding down the right mouse button and moving the mouse.
It's
and then pick up a gun and realize that to fire it, you have to like those fucking revolvers at the police station. You pull the trigger and it goes like slowly, like pulls the trigger back and clicks and fires. And then,
and like you can see the barrel turning and like, what?
It's a game. That's a game. That game is probably like on my game of the year list, but also it's real fucked up.
Did you go fishing?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so it's like the third one of the early levels. You can go fishing.
Oh shit! I knew there was fishing in the game. I didn't know you could do it that early.
Yeah, it's the level with all the water near the start.
Yeah,
and if you turn around, there's like an island with the house on it. You can go to the island. You can get a fishing rod, and then you can just fish off the island, and then get a bunch of fish, and then you can sell the fish later.
Yep. You can upgrade your body by boring out holes in your back that fire out excrement to make you dash.
Or your feet, and then when you jump, you can double jump then, and then the ground is just covered in like orange goo.
Yep. Or you can make it so that you can shoot your intestines out like a grappling hook. That game is fucking something, man. I think anyone who like is interested in game design and game theory and stuff should play that game, even if you can't end up dealing with its aesthetic. I actually like the aesthetic, even though it's real fucked up, because I like garbage, like like low art trash kind of stuff that's intentional. I don't mean any of that to say it's not. It's carefully crafted, and I think that I don't remember the name of the developer.
It's deliberate.
They are incredibly talented. So when I say trash and garbage and stuff, that's not like a qualitative assessment
choice.
It is the aesthetic of the game.
Yeah, we're gonna make the shittiest looking game we can.
Yeah,
that still has like
because
an aesthetic.
It's on purpose. You get it if you play it, and if you look at it and you look at it. The one thing I would say is I kind of half thought that there was something like it was a Frog Fraction situation where once you started playing it, something changed and it was like not the game that it looks to be on the Steam page.
Yeah.
That's not something that happens. It is the game that is marketed on the Steam page. So definitely don't go in thinking that it's Frog Fractions.
Or is it?
I mean, unless you found things that I haven't, which is possible.
No, I think we're about the same distance in, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'm like 5 levels in or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's Cruelty Squad and It Takes Two. It Takes Two, good game. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone. Like, it's a fun 3D platformer with co-op and good comedy. It looks beautiful on the PS5. Just like some of the environments, I'm just like, holy shit, this looks really nice. Like really detailed, fun gimmicks in the levels. Like they don't feel like gimmicks, like fun, like choices on each level, and like each level is like about an hour long, give or take. And we've done like 4 or 5 levels. You probably get about 10 hours out of it. Let's see.
That's what I've heard, 10 to 12 hours, depending on the skill of the players.
Yeah. Glad it turned out better than
A Way Out.
The Way Out. Yeah, I was gonna say the prison one. I can't remember the name of, but yeah, A Way Out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I found like a reference to A Way Out in it. Like you find some action figures, and it's like the dad's like, "Oh yeah, this is my favorite game. I gave our daughter some action figures from it." It's like, your daughter's like 9. Why are you giving her these crime action figures? And then you can like make them say lines, what I assume are from the game. Who
are there some brother action figures as well?
Not that I've seen.
Too bad. It's a good game.
Who are okay? So maybe they're not. Oh no. Okay, yeah. Leo is in the game. So yeah, Leo and someone else, I guess. I don't know what the other character's name, but yeah. So it is the characters from A Way Out, or just like in this little side room, which is weird, but hey, it happens.
The Fereziverse.
So yeah. Yep. It's gonna all combine into one mega game, the metaverse. They're all gonna come to Fortnite.
God.
You're gonna play as the Way Out people in Fortnite.
You're gonna play as the younger brother from Brothers.
Yeah.
And you can't swim.
And the dad. And the
until the end of the game.
Wow, spoilers.
For how old is Brothers now?
Probably like 10 years old.
Maybe even older? No, yeah, 2013. No. So almost 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah, wow. Not even. Still haven't been 10 games better than Brothers.
Nope, never.
Maybe Cruelty Squad. Well, actually, you know what? We're about to talk about a game that might. It's not, but some would argue that it is better than Brothers. It's Alex. What? You brought more a topic of discussion this week rather than a game. Would you like to set us off?
Yeah. So I don't think we've really been
of light.
I don't think we've really been talking about this thing as it has been happening.
Because it's somewhat recent.
Yeah, like I think it's been happening over the past, I don't know, let's say 2 or 3 weeks. Where there's been somewhat of an exodus from the popular MMO World of Warcraft. And
Never heard of it.
yeah, it's kind of niche. It's kind of it's not too popular, but so
So like
I've
some
been,
sort of like a Warcraft 40K, Warhammer 40K.
yeah, it's a mod. You have chainsaw
Okay.
guns. Duh.
Okay. So it's a
yeah.
space. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
It's a
But
Space Marine mod.
Space Marine. So basically, from what I can tell, and I've been talking to a few friends who do play WoW to try and get some of the context of why there has been this kind of exodus, where apparently, because I think we established this probably a year ago when I started playing FF14, that I'm not a WoW, or sorry, I'm not a MMO, like expert by any means. So I usually rely on other people's opinions on that kind of stuff to try and understand it at least. So I've talked to a few people and kind of collated some opinions. And like one of the things that I was told, and I'll quote what was said to me, was Blizzard thought it would be a good idea to have players spend 6 weeks grinding for a legendary item and then hundreds of thousands of gold to buy it. And then in the next patch, they add in this other socket to the item and say that you have to do that whole grind over and over again just to get the socket.
Oh.
So like it's what's happening is it's very much becoming a time grind. Like very much like it's not so much about skill. It's not so much about just being able to do it. It's literally this will take 6 weeks or more just to do it. And like when I heard that, like it sounded like to me like just some project manager being given like a design doc that says, hey, keep them subscribed for months at a time, do whatever you need to do, ha 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 ha. And
I mean, that's kind of the challenge now, is like those things, like things are like so optimized that like people, eventually like they get to end game and then like, okay, now we can just like burn through like the serious players. And like, there is like who are you making the game for, the serious play or like the hardcore players, or are you making the game for like the average Joe? And like, how do you keep that, like, how do you keep that balance? Destiny's run into that a lot too.
So there's a really good thread that I have linked in our group chat and I'm going to put in the show notes from Mark Kern, who was one of the original OG vanilla WoW devs. And it starts with this kind of insider leak that someone posted on 4chan that seemed not reputable, but Mark's commentary on everything was really, really fascinating, and I 100% agree with him. And I think it is something which plagues both WoW and Blizzard, as well as kind of the games industry as a whole. And to summarize it, he talks about how the video game industry, when it started and like when it was really becoming popular, especially back in like 2004, 2008, stuff like when WoW was really growing, is the industry was made up of people who loved games making games they wanted to play. Like that's how WoW was. It's a bunch of people who played EverQuest and like, yeah, we want to make something like that, but way better. And they made something extremely influential. Like WoW has defined a lot of modern gaming stuff for everybody. Like for better or for worse, it has. And the people that were behind it were super, super, super passionate. But now, like going by just what he has described in the thread, like the industry is kind of being inundated with people they call 9-to-5ers. Like it was clear that the games industry has suddenly become popular, and it's the kind of thing where it's kind of a cool thing to play games, and like there's just a lot of money to be made there. Like salaries were getting higher, so instead of getting really passionate gamers per se, you were getting people with like MBAs who were like super deep into the economic part of it, and they weren't there for passion. They were there to make their money and to leave. Like they don't care about the player experience. They're not playing the games. They aren't talking about games with people in their free time. They're literally just there for the monetization, for making 6 figures and that kind of stuff. And that has led to just kind of really questionable development in places like Blizzard. And there was a lot of times like it seems like there was a lot of times where people were right on the edge of leaving WoW. Like it's like it seems like the developers are out of touch and like they're doing some stuff here that we just don't agree with. But it seems like the recent deluge of just totally time grindy content is what finally broke a lot of people's backs. Like the the straw that broke the back, whatever, the camel, etc., whatever that analogy is.
And it sounded like also that I heard people weren't stoked on like the story stuff that came in the most recent patch or whatever. It was like, this is like a letdown.
I've also heard that. Yeah. And so what happened was, well, Final Fantasy XIV is a popular online MMO with a free trial up to level 60, and it does include the Heavensward expansion. And it is a good MMO. Like, I mean, I haven't played enough of them to say like, oh, I'm a connoisseur, as we've talked about, but like it is a good game, and it is different than WoW in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of inspiration because of course it does. And Yoshida has been very on record as saying like he really loved WoW. He really loved like what was the one that like destroyed half the world in where it starts with the C? Conquest? No.
Cataclysm.
Thank you. Like he was a big fan of the stuff that did, and that obviously influenced parts of FF14. So that game became kind of the target of where a lot of WoW players ended up. So like now you're seeing the term of like WoW refugees. Like there's just been an influx of a ton of WoW players coming on to Final Fantasy XIV, and I can confirm that is true. And that is not just true in North America. Like I play on a Japanese server, and it has also seen a huge amount of people coming in. Like I'm in an English speaking guild on a Japanese server, and that has exploded in terms of how many people are on it. And it seems like another big influence has been streamers. Like there's the really big streamer Asmongold. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was not previously familiar with him really. I've kind of been introduced to him.
Yeah, I got a YouTube recommendation of him like watching a Dark Souls speed run for some reason. It was like him watching it for the first time, reacting, and he had the most childlike wonder, like he just ran past. It seemed like his first time watching like a speed run period, like completely unfamiliar with the concept or something. He's like, he just ran past those guys. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah. So like I am not super familiar with Asmongold's like history or what he's been like.
Yeah.
Or, like I'm aware he's had some controversies around him, and he's kind of been, there's been some like toxic masculinity talks about him in the past, like 5-6 years ago or something. But I've watched a couple of his streams, and I actually think he's kind of an interesting streamer. Like this is kind of irrelevant to the topic of WoW and Final Fantasy XIV in the industry, but something really interesting that he did is he seems relatively self-aware for someone as popular as he is, because he was talking about criticisms that he has received and how he's grown from them, and how he's like, yeah, no, these people are totally right. I fucked this up, like, and I'm working on it. So like he was very open about that stuff, and I was like, that's cool. And I turned on one of his streams as it was starting, and the first hour and a half, he just spent looking at community content, like that his community had created on Reddit and Twitter, and like it was just like him going through it and being like, yeah, the person who made this fan art, you're awesome. Like, that's so cool. Thank you for doing this. Like, he was being really genuine, like going through and being like, yeah, this is really cool stuff. And like talking about really good members of his community, and just like, it was really humble in a way that I thought was not what I was expecting from everything I'd heard about him. And it also seems like he is really, really enjoying Final Fantasy XIV, which is kind of awesome. Like he went into it being like, oh, this is a weeb game and cat girls who fucking, oh god, ugh. And then he saw Y'shtola, and then he was like, oh, uh-oh. It's like, well, oh no,
I'm
she's
surprised
hot.
he could see.
Oh no,
anything.
I want to fuck the JPEGs as well.
I'm surprised he could see anything, because like when he streamed it, it was like a huge event.
Oh my
and
God. Yeah,
that, like, I feel like that sort of led, like, of course it's not one person, but like
he is
such a big
influence,
streamer. Yeah. And being like the biggest WoW streamer, and what happened when he streamed FF14 for the first time, and it was just basically ruined that server as everyone went into Limsa Lominsa, and everyone like just making accounts
crowding
on
around
that server
him.
and
Yeah.
trying to like log into the server and just shooting off.
I think it's important.
Particle effects and stuff.
I do think it's important to at least cover, like, we're very hot on Final Fantasy 14 here. I know like several people that I am friends with fucking hate Final Fantasy 14 because they think that the opening 60 levels of content is like a huge drag. And they were all like, I got to level 40 after spending 30 hours in the game and looked up how much longer I had to play before people say it gets good. And I don't have time for that. So I do think,
but
like,
I've also met a lot of people who really love that first like 50 levels of content. So like, I think
I think there's also a lot of people that love grinding in WoW, you know, like I think some of it is
love the
subjective.
story. Yeah, like I've been reading a lot of feedback and stuff, especially like people being like, I don't know why people are complaining about these first 60 levels. I think the story's great. So like, I think
probably because does WoW even have a story for the first 60 levels?
Yeah, WoW has plenty of story stuff in it for sure.
It's not particularly good.
Again, I think it's very subjective. Yeah. I think there's plenty of interesting story stuff you can get into in WoW that's more happens than the first 60 levels of Final Fantasy. I just think
also
there's
a lot of it happens in like books. Like they have a lot of
it's just all like text boxes for the most part until you get later on.
Something I saw with like watching some of those videos of just kind of reading about this is someone, I forget who it was, sorry, I can't credit who it was, but kind of compared the way WoW tells a story is like a twit longer, whereas the way that Final Fantasy 14 tells its story is like a tweet. Like it's just a series of tweets, so you're just getting it in bite-sized chunks that are very digestible and stuff like that. Whereas like WoW is a big, like it's just text dumps, and like it's like you're having to read a ton of lore to
I will say,
get the story.
Having played WoW earlier this year, and having played the expansion before Shadowlands, it's generally more localized stories. Like we started new characters. That were the Worgen.
When I said does WoW have a story, that's what I meant. It was like
it doesn't
early
have
on. There's not like an overarching story. It's just like
the overarching story is
things happening.
It's much more ambient. It's much more like it's happening in the world, and you're just sort of a person in it rather than being the hero. And like when we started Worgen, the Worgen starting story took us a few hours to get through, and there were cutscenes, there were scripted elements that were happening, there were carriage chases, there's all the sort of stuff dynamic stuff that you get in something like Final Fantasy 14. And then from there, it's like, where do you want to go? And we did level boosts and went to the, maybe we didn't do level boosts, but we went to the like piratey area, and that's in the last expansion, and started doing the story. Plenty of cutscenes there, lots of like spoken voice acted dialogue and stuff. I think
a lot of it kind of seemed like, I haven't played that much of that stuff, but watching it seems like a lot of that was almost afterthoughts. Like the way the characters animate, like the facial animations happen, it just looks
it's built on like old,
it's also
super
from
old tech,
2004, but
they've updated since then. But
I would say that the animation quality and the like, I can't remember if it was Warlords of Draenor or what. No, it wasn't Warlords of Draenor, because it was on Azeroth, but the cutscenes looked better than Final Fantasy's cutscenes from the ARR for sure. In the WoW stuff we were playing, there was much more like the faces were more expressive, and like they actually like there was consistent voice acting throughout it, unlike A Realm Reborn, which is very like hit or miss as to whether the characters like say anything. I don't necessarily mean this to be like I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. I love Final Fantasy 14. I think this cycle, as someone who's been in and out of MMOs for like 20 plus years, it's just a thing that happens all the time. There happens to be a huge expansion for Final Fantasy 14 coming out, and WoW is in a pretty big drought of content right now. It's pretty common for like lots of players to drop one game and go to another game. I think it's just higher profile because the streamer is so popular, and he's kind of like leading the charge and very publicly like building a lot of hype for jumping ship to another game. But
I don't
know that it's
I don't think I agree in like reading everything that I've been reading and just kind of getting all these opinions. Like it seems like Blizzard went from a place of doing what they can to maintain subscriptions to this point they're going to have to do something to like win people back, because a lot of people are so done like that. And these are people that have been playing the game for like 15 years, and these are people who, you know, have had social relationships and all this kind of stuff. Like, it sounds like it's a fundamental, like, actual exodus because people are just like pissed about.
I
this
guess
game.
We'll see when like the next expansion comes out. You know, like, is it going to be a boycott Call of Duty 2 thing? Or,
I'm not saying that I think
Advanced Warfare. No, what is Modern Warfare 2?
I wouldn't be surprised if like the positions or whatever switch and there's more Final Fantasy 14 players than WoW players, like, consistently. But I don't know that I think it's like some huge, like, these players are leaving WoW, they're never going back, WoW's dying kind of thing. And I would say, like, there's millions of people who plays these games. I'm sure you could find dozens of opinions on both sides that are writing articles saying the game sucks, the game's good. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of we have to see, because like I can also say that WoW Retail and WoW Classic are totally different animals too. And I could see
people who will play WoW Classic and never touch.
Well, like my partner plays WoW Classic. She doesn't play retail that much. She has some retail characters, but she mostly did the content and then doesn't need to do the grind. And I would say too, Final Fantasy 14 has the same ridiculous time grinds for relic weapons in it as well. It's just that they release story content more consistently. So it's more of a like, but plenty of people that I know, they play up to the story patch and like they're not subscribed right now because they're waiting for Endwalker to come out because they don't have any more story to play. And I think that's a little easier to do with 14 because it has that singular narrative through line of story quests versus something like WoW, where like you get done doing the stuff you're interested in doing and then like all you have to do then is the grind, and it's like, are you a WoW? There just isn't that same, like, I can play it to the end of the story and then unsubscribe kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think that's also a fundamental design difference between the two games because like WoW is very much like we were saying, like the design doc that the developers are being handed is keep these people coming back forever. Like, do what you can to make sure that they stay subscribed. These people will play anything, you know, like just make grindy
Square's
stuff.
doing the same thing to
they're not
management.
Because Final Fantasy 14,
Square Suits are doing the same thing to Yoshi P. They just have I disagree. Like looking at the research and stuff I've done, like the way they approach it, and like you can find lots of examples. I can link them in the show notes, but of them saying like, hey, if you only want to play the story content, do it, come back whenever you want. Like they're not saying you have to stay in this world. Like they encourage people to play other games, to go do other things, like to pause their subscriptions and stuff like that. They're saying like, hey, enjoy what you want in our content. If you run out of stuff to do, come back, we'll have more of it later. But like, don't feel like you're forced to stay here. So like, it is a completely different design philosophy.
If anything, I think this will end up being like the best thing that could happen to WoW.
Agreed.
With like a lot of people going, oh, you know what? We're going to go check out Final Fantasy 14. And then people went, oh shit, I can't play Final Fantasy 14 because too many digital copies were bought and Square took it off sale.
That was interesting.
Like, on their digital store. And I
also think that the minute that there is I think we're riding really high off of a very beloved expansion to Final Fantasy 14. I can also remember the time when I was actively, like, I wasn't playing it when Stormblood came out, but I had been playing it right up until Heavensward came out. And I had friends that were really engaged in it when Stormblood came out. And they were like, ooh, Stormblood is hit or miss. And there was people were very down on that game then. And again, Stormblood's pretty good. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying though, is that Final Fantasy 14 is going to live and die by its story. If Endwalker comes out and it sucks, people are not going to stick around to grind out their, I mean, some people will, but like at large, people are not going to stick around to grind out their relic weapons and do the content that you could keep paying for FF14 to do. And they're going to go looking for something else. They may not go back to WoW, but I think
maybe it'll end up being New World. Who knows? Like, or there's like some other one that's in alpha right now. But like the point is, like, WoW is in a bad place right now. And Blizzard seems to be in a place where they seem very out of touch with
But
their user base.
I feel like WoW is in a
the
bad
board,
place like every 2 years.
That's I think it's very cyclical.
I think this is different though. Like it does feel different.
I guess I don't want to invalidate what you're saying, but is it different because you read more articles this time, or is it different because
sentiment of people I talk with, like if not every day, then like every other day?
The sentiment of the last expansion was really rough. Like people were really negative about this point in the cycle from the last expansion as well. And so I guess I just wonder if it's because more people are paying attention because there's such a difference in like hype levels for what's going on in WoW and what's coming for Final Fantasy. And again, the very public and the fact that a big streamer is like pulling headlines on like larger gaming sites that don't normally pay attention to these ebb and flows. Because I don't know. I think that last WoW expansion was pretty cool and people were pretty hot on it when it first came out. They're just in a drought of content right now, which is what they have had happen for the last couple expansions around this period of time into the cycle. I think maybe now there's all this hype for FF14 so there's somewhere for them to go, which is maybe why it seems like more people are leaving. But
like I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, another patch in WoW hits and they go, okay, we heard your criticism, and then people go back and like, okay, yeah, WoW's back to it. But also I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 14, and when there's a new story thing there, I'll go back to that. And because like I feel like we're at a point where people don't need to be playing. I mean, you can for a lot of these games, but like you don't need to be like a single game gamer, especially with like, you know, people get through all this content and if they go, oh, I can do like have a different experience, but like similar ideas and stuff. And if I can get the same people in like one game or in both games, then, you know, that could be like a fun thing for people to do. But yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon to see like how much like Asmongold stream and then the stuff happened with like the Square store and like the servers and like no new accounts were, you know, we're congested. People need to calm down. You'll get in eventually, but we need to slow your roll. It is fascinating to see happen.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's totally possible that you're completely right in that they shut WoW down next year. Like, I don't know. None of us knows what's going to happen.
I don't think they will, but
no, I don't think they will either.
I don't think.
And then they replace it with Tony Hawk Online.
We can only dream.
Tony Hawk.
I think it is one of the clearest examples of the issues that we have been seeing with AAA game development, and that will only get bigger. Sure. Like it is, again, it's what the kind of the thesis at the start was, which is that these big games, and especially in the era it was made, were big games made by gamers who wanted to play that. Like they were dog fooding it, if you're familiar with that term. Whereas now it's very much a business. It is very much less about innovations. It's less about making cool shit that people want to play, and just about how to make the most money and not care about the stuff in the
that is kind of the business across. And like you see, like, you know, Game Pass is kind of part of this, and like, you know, that's about getting subscribers into the ecosystem. Like,
sure.
You know, they can say like, oh, it's, you know, creating the best value for people, but as soon as they can, as soon as, you know, line A crosses line B, then they can jack up that price and go, okay, you know, we're making enough money on these boxes and this subscription, or, you know, Sony with their stuff. Oh, we can jack up the price to $70, or, you know, and whatever other company and subscription services and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. It is definitely like new ways to make money. And with games like WoW, you know, they've experimented with stuff with like the tokens or whatever. And like, like so many different ways to like, how can we get more money into this thing, because subscriptions aren't doing it anymore. And You know,
Yep.
I think they've said like, oh, we'd never do like a free to play version or something. Like there's like play to level 20 for free or whatever, but like
Yeah.
there's no like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, we'll do cosmetics and stuff or whatever for free, and then you could like subscribe and get extra bag space or whatever. You know, some games do that, but
Yeah. And for what it's worth, any criticisms I'm levying against Blizzard is largely against mid to upper
Bobby
management.
Kotick.
Like I know at least 3 people who work at Blizzard, and they're passionate. They care. They want to be doing cool shit. Like the people that are doing the actual work generally are there because they want to be there. But it's just
I would assume that's most companies.
Yeah, and I guess
but yeah,
that was kind of sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, please go for it.
I was gonna say, I guess that's kind of, people on the FF14 team can say, oh yeah, come back, play how much you want, and then come back later as much as they want. But the suits at the top of Square Enix that are handing the decisions down, they would like you to spend as much money on Final Fantasy 14 as possible. Please buy the $40 mounts, please. Like, that they want to make as much money as possible too. It's just that they maybe are seeing their team has been very successful, so they're giving them a little bit less of a like, here's what you got to do to make the money. And I think it's made it seem a little more consumer friendly, but I don't know that I don't know.
It seems, and this is purely perceived as someone who's not in those meetings and does not have that oversight. It's like the Square heads trust what the team is doing there, whereas the Blizzard heads feel like they need to dictate what the team is doing and tell them what's right.
And does the stuff you read include actual like memos from Blizzard leadership that are mandating those things down?
It comes from like people like Mike Kern who have worked there, and and other developers who are speaking out about like, this was the situation there, blah 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 blah.
That makes more sense too than that's actually happening. But like, I guess I don't believe that Square. I believe that the combination of quality content and good marketing has led to a perception that Square has more trust in the FF14 team, and like, but I don't believe that it's because the people who run Square are any less profit focused or better people than the people who run Blizzard, because Square Enix has shut down so many studios and spun off so many teams.
Studio.
Yeah, they fuck over dev teams all the time when they don't meet their profits expectations. So
look what they did to
IO. Look what they've done to Crystal Dynamics.
Crystal D. Right.
And I'll guarantee you that I guarantee you that the reason that Avengers game is what it is because of things that they said to the Crystal development team, in much the same way that Blizzard's management has mandated things to the WoW team. So it's just
AAA development is a nightmare.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Luke Smith from Bungie was, said that same stuff. Like, oh yeah, no, we want people to like if you're done with the game, put it down and come back. When there's a new expansion and there's something you want to do.
And yet the game is a literal FOMO simulator.
Well, now it is literally like every week.
Play it every week, or you won't know what the fuck is going on.
And then it's gone. Like you'll miss that story forever if it's gone. Like you can watch a YouTube video. Like, I mean,
that's why
no matter what they're saying, there's all like Final Fantasy 14. Wow, they're like different beasts in that regard. But like they can say whatever they want about that stuff. But there's still like part of them like, okay, no, we need to keep like pulling
and literally
and like getting people playing at the very least as much as we can. Things
like WoW literally has a character who operates a time machine, so you can go back in time to previous expansions to play through their stories. It's
silly, but
I say that more to say at least you can see. You can see the breadth of content for the most part that is in that game even now if you just subscribe. So I would 14 is my MMO of choice, but I would play WoW over like Destiny at this point.
I think the smartest thing that Final Fantasy 14 has going for it, like mechanically, is that you can do one character every class.
Totally.
You don't have to do like, oh, now I have to replay through the starting segment of this, and like they've got like the Horde and the Alliance, but you don't have to do like, oh, I've got my undead and my human and my Tauren and my elf and like, and my wizard, like all different characters, and you have to
granted,
it's just different
the
things.
Fact that Final Fantasy,
flavors.
Just the fact that Final Fantasy 14 like makes it like, okay, if you can be any class on this character, you just have to level it up. I think that is like very smart and might give them a bit of an edge in like retaining players. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But
I don't
you
know,
Like I would love to see
Personally,
more.
I love that.
I would love to see more
Even though I
innovation in the
haven't-
space too. Like other
Yeah.
companies. Like I've been
Oh, you
hearing
mean
that
like
new,
Amazon and their
Yeah, well,
New
I've
World.
heard that New World actually from the latest trial run they've done is actually pretty good. Like in
I've
terms
also
of
heard that
gameplay
New World
stuff.
is. I've heard it's fucking trash, but I'm considering. I've heard it's good too. I'm not arguing with you. It seems like it's so divisive. I think I might have to see what it is. Like,
Sure.
I can't believe they made that game. They're like, and people had to be like, "Hey, yo,
oh yeah,
what is
Oh,
this
yeah.
colonial
Look.
oh yeah.
simulator?" And they're
Let's
like,
be clear.
you know, you're
No, that
right.
part of it
is
We're gonna
garbage.
rework this a little bit.
This is
But, like,
this is
what?
this is me saying,
Yeah.
like I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I played a fair amount of Escape from Tarkov the last few weeks, and fuck the people who make that game. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm
But it's
certainly,
a good game. But
it's a very interesting. It is at least extremely interesting, and there's nothing else like it. And so from that angle, I'm very interested in trying New World, even though I'm kind of like not all the people on the team. I'm sure there's plenty of good people on that team, but like fuck Amazon and fuck
the outspoken ones.
It's
yeah.
just it's
fuck
just
the
like how
genesis of that game. And
How did you
Yeah.
come up? How is this your design?
but you
choice?
show
Like,
me, and at least this is not meant as a defense of anyone making those decisions. I will say you're totally right, and I agree 150%, but at least they went, oh, okay, we'll take some of that stuff
Sure,
out
sure.
and walk
Yeah.
it back
But
some
the fact
instead
that
of
they
doubling
got
down.
there at all is
At least it
Yeah.
wasn't like that This Land Is My Land game where
God.
that European studio made a game about being a Native American.
yeah,
And then
no,
when
that-
Native American and indigenous people called them out on it, they were like, no, fuck you. We can tell this story, and then continued
Yeah.
to make it.
There was another game recently that had something like that. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I don't know. I hope that there's innovation. Maybe New World will do something cool despite all of its bullshit. Maybe Ashes of Creation will turn out to be really fucking awesome. It seems.
I'm
pretty
interested
cool.
in that one for sure.
Yeah, like
I think
I think innovation
sequel
is
to
good.
Ashes of the Singularity.
I
wish.
like. I think I just still really like MMOs because they combine two of my favorite
Cat girls.
and more cat girls. No, they
Bunny
and
dudes.
bunny. Yeah, sure. No, it's more like I love open worlds in the sense of like exploring large,
Totally.
vast spaces, which is actually something that WoW I like more in WoW than it's one of the few things, because I do like FF14. I don't want to sound. I came away from that sounding like the WoW defender. And I didn't really mean to, because I do love
it's
FF14.
fine. There's still
Um,
awesome things about WoW. It is
yeah.
influential for a
We
reason.
need people on all sides
Yeah,
in the is Fortnite actually overrated conversation.
That's a different conversation entirely.
This whole
the-
thing boils down
Staying out of
to-
that one.
But anyway, the MMOs combine that love of like big open spaces that are explorable, and you can see the environmental storytelling happening in them and stuff, and social kind of
Totally.
emergent social experiences. So any games
Yeah.
that are taking stabs at doing those things, I'm going to be interested in. And so I would love to see more continued growth and innovation in those spaces for sure.
Yeah. And one thing, and we can step away from it, but something that's been really fun to just watch is watching the Final Fantasy 14 subreddit and watching people telling stories of like, oh man, I was just finished doing all these story quests and was feeling a bit burnt out, so I went back to Limsa Lominsa and just watched this bard playing songs for like half an hour, and like this group of people just collected around them and was clapping, and like new players talking about like this random level 80 person came up to me and gave me a little pet that's like this little baby seal, and it's adorable and says, hey, enjoy the game. Like seeing those kinds of just like interactions that are positive and endearing, and like you said, emergent, like that part has been really,
And
really
that's just
fascinating.
that's a cool, I know this isn't at all a like You can do that in WoW too. That's not my point. It's more that I saw my partner showed me a bunch of people used an item to turn into tree ents and then started saying the ents are going to Isengard. And then, Orgrimmar just walked in a circle and it was like 80 people walking in a circle as ents for 20 minutes.
That's pretty great.
I'm saying MMOs in general create those moments, and I love that about them. And it's really fun. I know
dumb
people
in the good way.
I know people who go to raves in Final Fantasy 14 every Friday, and that is like their primary social thing that they've been doing during lockdown. Not even people who are like antisocial or don't like to go out and do stuff with people, but because they haven't been able to, that's where they've gotten that fix, is to go to a Final Fantasy 14 rave. And so that stuff is I love that about MMOs, and I hope that more games continue that trend.
You know what?
And
like,
find new ways.
As much shit as I will talk about the game and the development, Fortnite is really good at that too. Like, really good at it. Like having those kind of like those curated weird moments, like the concerts and like the world blowing up. Essentially, like that stuff is awesome. But that's also more development side than community side.
If someone did like a Fortnite style concert, they did like the massive production like they did for Aesop. Who did they do that shit for? I don't even know.
Well, I mean, they did the Travis Scott one, if that's yours.
The Travis Scott, that's who it was. If they did like a Travis Scott style concert in WoW and Final Fantasy 14, who would be the character? Who would be the performer in each game? Who would they get?
Like, I think the obvious answer is the Primals in FF14, but if we're going for something,
you're thinking
it's got to be somebody.
It's got to be mainstream. It's got to be.
Well, I think
someone the kids
CC Arega.
Sure,
that's that's on the edge, but I'll I think it's CRJ. Come on, they can give her a sword.
Yeah, give her
character a sword.
Give her so many swords,
and people can argue about what class she's going to be, because all the main characters in FF14 have like. By the time you get into the expansions, they all have like a class. Like Alizé is a red mage, and Thancred right now where I'm at is a ninja, I think. So they could argue about what class CRJ is going to be. The answer is a paladin, but also that's I think that's the performance.
She'd be a cat lady,
cat lady paladin.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if she fits FF14's brand of cat ladies.
Maybe she'd be a Lalafell.
There's nothing funnier in the world than a fucking sinister Lalafell. Like
I love them. They're so funny.
I argue that the funnier thing is when they get fucking murdered. Like, no spoilers, but like that does happen a couple times where a sinister looking Lalafell just gets fucking murked.
It's true. That does happen, especially prior to Stormblood.
Yes.
But I think a good one would be Zed.
Sure.
Zed is pretty nerdy. He's into that kind of shit. How about you?
He's an asshole.
Who would you see?
Oh, sorry.
I think Carly Rae Jepsen is kind of the perfect choice. But for a WoW, who are you thinking?
Other choice that would be great for FF14 is Seven Lions. That would be he'd be really good in FF14.
Utada Hikaru and
back the fuck up. At some point they have to do a Kingdom Hearts crossover, and there's going to be some Kingdom Hearts music in there somewhere. And then
my god, if you go into the raid and fucking Simple and Clean starts on the boss fight, oh my god, Kingdom Hearts raid
if they did Kingdom Hearts raids, I would lose my fucking mind. It would just be me and my friend that I play with, who is also an enormous Kingdom Hearts is his favorite series, and we would probably just be crying in a Discord call doing the raid.
You could do like and you could do it without Disney stuff, because you could do like Organization 13 type stuff and like go like World That Never Was or whatever, or like Twilight Town, stuff like that.
I mean, they've done Monster Hunter, they've done Nier, they're doing Final Fantasy 15.
Wait, they do? Yeah, I mean, Disney has always been like the hard thing there, because I think they own like a lot of the IP on that stuff, or like a lot of the characters and stuff.
If they did a Kingdom Hearts one, you wouldn't see any of the Disney stuff. It would just be
even
Sora and Riku and stuff.
But some of the word is like Disney makes like even like Sora like difficult to like get into other stuff.
Man, fuck Disney. Fuck that. That's stupid. That's a
Absolutely.
I've
Final
heard that
Fantasy
is like
character.
some of the reason behind like Sora not being in Smash is Disney, but you know, that's all hearsay. Who knows?
It's
But
because of the feet
It
and the
wouldn't be
pants.
surprising.
Sora's a Disney character from the waist down, and that's why.
Disney.
There's
from
a
the waist
lot to
down.
unpack there. I'm not going to unpack any of it.
God, but just like the sick arrangement of like Simple and Clean and Sanctuary and
Okay.
I guess Face My Fears if you're
Seven-
disgusting.
7 Lions doing those arrangements would be pretty cool.
Sure.
That could be good.
I could see him doing good remixes of those.
I bet
Anyways.
he has in his personal collection
Maybe.
that he has
Maybe.
not shared with the world.
It's very possible. He's very good. Anyways, WoW, Final Fantasy 14. This whole saga has been really interesting. I look forward to just keep checking in on it like every month, every couple months.
Yeah,
Maybe not
it'll
here,
be
but-
interesting to see what like the overall impact will be on specifically WoW, because Final Fantasy 14 at least currently seems like it's on track to just keep trucking as is.
Yeah, I hope
You know.
Endwalker is good. You know, that's like,
Yeah.
I think the big thing is that
Yeah,
if
it remains to be
Endwalker
seen.
is good, then I think it's in a good place. Although Endwalker seems like it's
Endwalker.
gonna be the last thing, obviously not forever, but I don't know that they're gonna be firing off another expansion 2 years after Endwalker that has a bunch of story stuff. You know, it'll be interesting to see what they do next from there.
I mean, it's supposed to be like the start of a new story at the end of like the Endwalker like base expansion.
So I'll be interested to see if they keep the same cadence or if it's a little more finite and then they have a longer break. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm just interested in seeing it because I trust in Natsuko Ishikawa. Like, her writing has been so fucking good.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I think the Dark Knight story that I've played is a touch overrated. It's good, but people talk about it like it's like the best class quests in the game. And I don't know if I go that far, but it's very good. And Shadowbringers is, supposed to be fantastic, and I'm almost there. So
Yeah. Speaking of
I gotta get
potentially
back to
very
it, but-
good, there's something in our news that could potentially be very good.
The news is potentially good this week. It's pretty good actually this week. I think everything except one news story sucks. The rest are good for the most part. One is
Yeah.
middling.
Yeah, Persona's okay.
Pretty good this week. SGDQ raised $2.9 million for
Oh,
Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the French. I can't.
Médecins Sans Frontières, but it was a really, really good event.
Les Enfants Terribles.
Yep. Les Enfants Terribles.
Les Infants to Reblase.
But I don't know. Did any of y'all watch many runs? I know Allison did, but she's not here.
I wanted to, and I just did not have the time, unfortunately. But I need to go back and like catch some stuff. Like there was a Resident Evil 7 race that I want to watch.
Oh, it was good. It was really good. Yeah, there was
I want
a
to watch
lot
that
of really
Kingdom Hearts 2 critical mode, like stuff like that. I need to
That
catch,
one was
but
really
just
amazing.
didn't have the time.
It was extremely hype, as the kids say. The Pokemon Black and White race was also insane. Like, it was a 3.5 hour run, and at the end of the race, they were literally 5 seconds apart. Like, and they
Yeah, we talked about
diverged,
that
like-
last week.
Yeah, but it had so many good runs. The My run, which is the rhythm game that looks like a dishwasher or a washing machine rather. That one was insane. Like, yeah, lots of really good runs this year, and it's always really awesome when they're supporting MSF, because MSF gets really involved in the chat and stuff too, and like they're just a great organization to support anyways. So anyways, yeah, SGDQ 2021 kicked big booty.
Nice. Let's see our next news story up. We got 2 decks, a tale of 2 decks. There's only one letter separating these 2 items. We got the Steam Deck from Valve. Earlier this year, Gabe Newell said, keep an eye out for later this year, and we'll talk about our like console plans, quote unquote. when he was.
I'll be
asked about
honest,
Valve console plans.
the first time somebody mentioned the Steam Deck to me on Thursday morning, I was like, it was in a Discord, and it was like wasn't even the Steam Deck launch page on Steam. It was through some other website, and I was like, "There's no fucking way this will actually happen. This is going to be like the Steam machines. They're going to send a bunch of prototypes to people, and then it's never going to be real beyond like, I know there were a few you could buy, but
that was my first personal computer was a prototype Steam machine.
And then the page went live, and I was like, oh, okay, I stand corrected. I was wrong. They're actually doing this thing.
And they actually had them in media hands so they could talk about them, which is rare for like, I feel like for these kinds of things.
And sorry, what was the other deck, Andre, before we jump into that?
Elgato announced like 9 new things. They announced like an XLR, like a audio interface, a new Stream Deck with like a new stand and like swappable face plates.
They're doing a Steam Deck also. Cool.
No, a Stream Deck. Don't cross the Steam
Same thing. Screens, buttons, docks.
Scream Deck.
Scream Deck. Subscribe to my new horror podcast, The Scream Deck, where we watch horror movies that take place on boats exclusively and spaceships. And porches.
We can talk more about the Elgato stuff later, but same day. Steam Deck
within 2 hours, I think.
Something like that.
It was really fun. Like Elgato posted some pretty funny stuff about it.
Hey, wait, I was like,
God damn it! Of all the days, of all the names.
Yep. But the Stream Deck is a popular piece of hardware, and Valve is like, no, it's the Steam Deck. Like, there's like a million other things. Deck. They could have called it like the Steam Switch.
Well, it was the PAL before, wasn't it? Or that was
something like
name?
That. But that's a little like anyway, so the Steam Deck is a handheld PC that looks similar to a Switch, but with really bizarre button placement. The Switch button placement is weird too, but like so you got like the sticks, and then directly next to the sticks on either side of like the top of the controller is like your face buttons and your D-pad, and then you've got a touchpad more like centrally located on either side.
It's like the upper left and upper right corners are made up of clusters of sticks and buttons, and then below those clusters is like a touchpad.
Yeah, and it is a chonky boy. It's like 60% more heavier than a Switch. Yeah. And it's got like, questionable battery life. It sounds like maybe 2 hours on a charge, which I don't know. I feel like my Switch gets that sometimes. So
they were saying 8 hours of light usage, and then probably if you were doing
web browsing and stuff.
Yeah, if you were playing like, I don't know, Control or something, it would probably be like 2 hours.
I think some of the I don't want to come off as like a Steam Deck defender, because I think remains to be seen if it even ends up living up. Totally. But I do appreciate that they're pretty transparent about all of the hardware and all of the capabilities of it up front.
Oh yeah, especially operating systems.
I think a lot of that stuff is really cool, and I think like it's easy to go, and you should. This isn't an argument, but you can go, okay, well, I have an hour-long commute to the bus, and I have no access on the bus, and I have no access to a power outlet all day to charge it. Maybe it's not going to work out for me. Or like, I would like to have a portable PC for the few times that I'm traveling, but it's always either on a plane. I'm always either the one driving and not playing Steam Deck, or I'm on a plane where there's a power outlet right there, or I'm in a hotel room where there's a power outlet right there. So like, to me, it's like, oh, actually 2 hours battery life doesn't matter to me. I don't really ever get in situations where I'm going to be sitting and using a handheld for 2 hours. So it's good that you're able to make those calls.
Quite the workout using this thing for 2 hours.
Well, also that's another good one, is that if the way you play is holding the device up, then yes, this maybe isn't great for your wrists. You're don't
playing on your back and like holding,
and I don't do that because it makes my hands fall asleep. So I always, when I do play my Switch in bed, I sit up and I hold the Switch in my lap anyway. So it's just
going to break their nose with this thing.
I think it's good that you get to know up front if it's going to fit your needs.
And I feel like it's kind of, people are making they're exaggerating how big of an issue it will be. Like, guess what? power banks are really good now. And a lot of really
totally,
high-end, like really high-end gaming phone kind of stuff. Yeah, they also have like 2 hours of battery life if you're using them at full capacity. So people are used to using power banks and stuff like that. So like, yes, I think it is a legitimate complaint, especially if people don't want to, have external things that they have plugged into it. But it's fine. But another thing I saw, and I've been seeing the sentiment online, was like people being like, oh, make sure not to pre-order this thing. Valve has the shittest record with hardware. And then they trotted out like, oh, the Steam controller fucking sucks. They didn't support it. The Steam Link sucked. It was like barely advertised. It was terrible. And they sold it for $1 to get rid of them. And the Steam boxes were shit. And the Vive was shit. And there's like, what are you talking about? Those were all great. Like the Steam controller is awesome. The Steam Link is awesome. The Steam box was not made by Valve. It was basically like third-party manufacturers that had to hit a schema.
I would say the Vive was awesome, but also not HTC. Made by Valve.
It was HTC. Like they made the
VR hardware, the Valve hardware that is the most recent thing is the Index, which is,
and it's really good.
Far and away the best VR system that exists. So like, accounting for the fact that it has the limitations of needing the base stations, all that stuff, but the highest fidelity VR you can get.
Totally. And like there was a really, really popular post on Reddit, like almost 100,000 points or whatever, that's just like, don't pre-order this at all. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? This is crazy. And I was like, no, like all the examples given are wrong. the Steam Link is great.
I think the Steam Link and the Steam controller are subjective to a degree. The only reason that they stopped supporting the Steam Link so hard is because it's done essentially from a development perspective, and they started putting Steam Link apps in TVs. So
and like phones. And,
So they just kind of lost the need for a dedicated hardware box to continue producing it. But as someone who has a Steam Link, the recent iteration of the hardware, none of the issues that come from it really come from the hardware. It's more stuff that comes from Windows fucking up with the like interacting with the app that's running and sending stuff to the Steam Link, which you could argue they should be accounting for, but
that's true. But like the thing that
they're still updating the Steam Link and stuff, like adding support for new controllers and whatnot.
And
like
the Steam
it's
controller
not done.
Too. The controller gets tons of
they're
updates.
Still
like I think got updated within the past week. I was looking, and one of the most interesting things I find about the Steam Deck is Valve has never stopped working on Steam OS. Like from the Steam boxes and before, they've been working on it since then. Like so, it's been like however many years. What year was that you got your Steam box?
2012. No, 2012.
So like 10
Wait, no,
years
what year was the
development?
No, 2013. 2013.
Okay. 8 years of development is a lot of time. Well, probably more than 8 years because they probably started development well before those boxes came out. But let's say 10-ish years of development on an operating system like that like you're going to get a new version with this thing. Hell yeah. I'd love to see what that does. Like it sounds awesome. So
and
the
if
other
you're
thing,
not into Linux, then you can install Windows on it.
Yeah, but ostensibly it runs every game on Steam, so it's using some kind of emulation. But
assuming some kind of wine wrapper that's like built into the launchers, which is cool.
Another
this is just
fun...
Gabe Newell's plan to turn every computer into a Linux desktop coming.
I'd be into it.
Everyone wants to buy the
jokingly
handheld PC, and so you should make your game work on Linux.
I hope so. Actually, I jokingly shit on Linux because I hate like base Linux and like some of the more command line intensive distros, but there are distros of Linux that work the same as Windows, like exactly the same. So
if you want easy access into the Linux world, just like get Ubuntu, get what's it called, Pop OS is pretty good.
Right.
Like all those are like really accessible.
Ubuntu just works like Windows, so you can totally
it is, or Mac OS. Like it's very, very comparable to Mac, because I think they kind of influence each other.
Sure.
One of the other things, Andre, I don't remember if you mentioned it or not, was the whole reservation fiasco.
Oh no,
happened.
we haven't gotten there. It's got last thing about like specs or whatever. It's got like Ryzen stuff, RDNA 2, which is the kind of stuff that's in the new consoles, right? It's like RDNA 2 based, it's based stuff. Like it's not the exact. It's this isn't a PS5 in your pocket. This thing doesn't fit in your pocket anyway.
Not terribly far off. but
but it's
yeah,
like the same kind of like just lower powered, so it can fit in that kind of form factor, and then like a 1280 by 800 screen or something ridiculous.
I think that's correct.
So some weird resolution.
Yeah, it's LCD, not OLED. Who cares? It's fine.
I'll wait for the OLED version in like 5 years.
In brackets, OLED version.
Yeah. But yeah, so but at that screen size, 7 inches, like that resolution is fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so reservations
by 10 resolution, I think.
Okay, that's nice. Okay.
I think.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense with the weird resolution number. So yeah, you were saying the reservation system. I didn't register because it's not available in Japan. But it seemed like, I don't know, some people were having issues with it. Basically to combat scalpers as best they could. In some way. It was like you needed to have a Steam account that was like so old, have like a purchase history and stuff on Steam if you wanted to, and then put down $5 if they give you, or if you're able to reserve it, which is interesting. But I saw some people with like it saying it's telling me my Steam account is too new, and they post their like account age and it's 17 years old, which is almost as old as it can possibly be, because Steam started in like 17 years ago in like September, so it's almost 18 years old.
Yeah, it was like for Counter-Strike or something.
I had to also, as a very brief aside, I'm excited about the prospect of docking this thing and then using a Steam controller to play with it and dock.
Oh, wow. That sounds awesome. That sounds like a really good version.
Where are you going to dock it? Like, you've already got.
What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess on your TV or TV? I guess like
okay, to the TV. Okay. Yeah. No, the part of the impetus of me actually reserving this thing, whether I end up buying it, we'll see where my finances are in Q1 2022. But it would be nice to be able to lay in bed and play it, to play like JRPGs and stuff. And I would really like to be able to play a lot of JRPGs, such as the Trails in the Sky series, that are not on any fucking consoles, but are still on Steam on the TV without using the Steam Link, because Steam Link or an emulator. Yeah. Well, I can play it on Steam on my PC. No problem. But I want to sit on the couch and play those games. And I don't want to have to use the Steam Link, because as much as the Steam Link largely works, I still run into little audio issues. I still run into occasional like latency hiccups, and it always ends up getting me just irritated, because it's pretty easy to make me just go, fuck this, forget it. If little minor irritations stack up, and that tends to be what happens when I try to use the Steam Link. Anyway, I use PayPal usually on Steam to buy stuff, and it was not going through. So I had to do it with a credit card to get it to actually accept it and go through. So there were lots of weird little issues. My friend said that it kept telling him his Steam account was too new, and he's had a Steam account since Half-Life 2 was released.
I think what ended up, the thing that people kind of reverse engineered about the too new error was that you had to have made some kind of purchase within like the past 30 to 60 days.
He ended up getting through after he refreshed it enough. But he had also bought something in the Steam sale, I want to say. So I don't know.
It just sounded like, their shit got hit real hard. And they did the smart thing where they went, okay, like this is going to sell out, or, they thought if this sells out, it'll be like a rolling reservation period, and it won't just be, oh, they're gone, and you just have to wait and then hope. You just go, okay, I know around this time period, then I can buy it if I still want it.
Yeah, and it's a very low
nice
barrier.
That they figured it out.
It's a $5 reservation, just to be able to do it. Like, and that also led to me putting in a reservation, even though I'm still 50-50 on whether or not I'll actually get one.
Yeah,
it seems cool.
Well, when is your reservation? When is your order time?
What do you mean? Like, when did it go through?
No, like when, because it gives you like you can probably order in like Q1 2022 or whatever.
Give me a sec.
You have to go to the Steam Deck page when you're logged in.
I'm just about to do that right now. Give me about 5.
You mentioned yours, Pat, right?
Yeah, and I did mine at 10:15 a.m. my time, so 15 minutes. Okay, cool. Because it's already out to Q3.
Wow.
Which versions did you reserve?
I reserve the highest one. Just
Yeah, same.
Okay.
It seemed most interesting.
My logic is either it's not going to be worth $400 to me, or it's going to be so good
like
that I want the best one
or whatever.
Totally.
The 650.
And
it
but
is
like,
a lot of money.
But like, to be
that
fair,
first step up makes sense with like the EMCC memory to the SSD and then
NVMe. Yeah. I wanted the
Thank you.
anti-glare screen if I was going to go all the way. That was the other reason I bumped up to the.
Yep.
That's the only way to get a backlit screen too. Weirdly, like they're taking page from the GBA.
From the GBA, exactly.
I thought you were serious for a second. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, no, it's basically yeah. You have to wait for the Steam Deck Micro.
Yeah, DSP. And you have to play by the streetlights when you're traveling.
But the most interesting thing to me is the price, actually, especially for the base model for $400, which is only $50 more than the new Switch model.
Yeah,
like you have access to your entire Steam library, which like Nintendo's stuff, like I will say their store is pretty bad, and they're generally like not very great with pricing most of the time. So like my Switch library is not enormous for that reason, because there's the Nintendo tax. But so the idea of having access to the entire Steam library, that rips.
Yeah, it's
also you're just generally going to get better performance on like PC already on that stuff. So if you're like if you have like PC stuff, like you're probably going to buy stuff there to like build up that library in the first place.
Totally.
And I read an article that was saying, I can try to find it. I think they were trying to approximate what you can expect from a performance perspective out of the Steam Deck, and they were saying that like, because like we don't really know for sure, because this is a new chipset that's like a new chip specifically, not new chipset. It's a new specific chip that hasn't been used in other things before. If you draw comparisons by using the raw numbers and like the technical details that I don't fully understand, this article was saying, I want to say it was in PC Gamer, was saying you can approximate it to a like mid-range gaming laptop, which they found one that they think was comparable spec wise to what the Steam Deck will be. And what they found was like, it probably won't run Cyberpunk. It probably won't run like some very, very, you may end up having a hard time playing Battlefield 2042 on it. Who knows? But that it's going to generally perform fine for most well-optimized games on Steam. And so
I'm not expecting to run all the most intense games on ultra settings with this thing.
Well, and also we talk about the pie in the sky of the Switch getting DLSS.
This has
the Steam Deck
super resolution.
Well, the Steam Deck will, I assume, have some form of DLSS available to it. I don't know how.
It can't have DLSS because that's proprietary to NVIDIA, but it'll have super resolution, which is AMD's version of DLSS.
It'll have Fidelity FX. Like
right. And at a certain point, if this device takes off, it behooves AMD to develop that technology more to like continue to squeeze life out of it.
They're already doing that. So I think that stuff is planned for the Xbox One or the Xbox Series like X, maybe the Series S2,
probably
like that Fidelity stuff. And
the point being,
it didn't come out right away. They're still like developing it and working on it. And then
the point being
DLSS is
if the device ends up being solid and it sells well, then it's going to lead to development that targets it more, whether through increased cooperation from AMD to squeeze more performance out of it through those kind of tools, or just developers going, do we really need X, Y, and Z bells and whistles when if we don't put that in? I'm being reductive. This isn't how a game dev works, but then will it work? Then can we make it better optimized for a Steam Deck? So
like, because at that point, it's kind of like the conversation we were having last week, where the Switch or whatever is a known quantity. Like, you know what CPU it has, you know what GPU it has, you know what memory it works with. Like, it's not ideal, but you at least have, it's not a moving target, like, which is one of the hardest things when developing for PC in general or Android or whatever. But yeah, if you know, okay, it has this CPU, this GPU, this much memory, always, and it's like, okay, we can optimize for that, no problemo.
No problemo. I don't know.
Well, lesser problemo.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if, like depending on the stuff, like when, yeah, but like the Switch has been iffy on that stuff.
Oh yeah,
I
we had a
will
whole
say-
conversation about it.
I think it's I think the one thing, I'm not picking on anybody. If you're listening to this podcast and we had this discussion at some point, this isn't a call out. I've seen a lot of people that have been like, LMAO, that button placement is terrible. And I think that's I think it's mostly just makes me chuckle because Valve pays people hundreds of thousands of dollars to design the ergonomics of their devices. And that doesn't mean they can't make mistakes, but I definitely am in the let's wait and see how it feels camp,
Totally.
rather than that looks terrible to use, because like, I doubt that they would be like, this sucks. This sucks, but it's going to be fine. I am sure that a lot of development time went into making sure that the buttons work well with the ergonomics of the rest of the device and the weighting and everything.
Probably.
Honestly, to me, it looks better than the Switch. Like, I think the Switch button placement is atrocious. I think
And
like
the button
I am the
size
Switch
on the
hater
Switch.
on this. Yeah,
I mean, I'm with you.
The Switch hater on this podcast.
I try to
I'm
ratchet
not-
back the Switch hate because I don't want to hurt people's feelings, basically.
Yeah,
I really don't like that
I'm-
device at all.
I'm like 50-50 on the Switch. I think it does some stuff well, but some stuff is really terrible. So
Basically, all the stuff-
It's a neat gimmick, but I hate using it.
All the stuff that the Steam
Yeah,
Deck is ripping
same.
off from the Switch is the stuff that I like about the Switch.
yeah. So I don't know. I think it is very much a wait and see device to see if
Totally,
it ends up
yeah.
being completely worth it, but there's just so much potential in it.
Yeah, and like these like handheld PCs aren't new.
No,
but
they
with
aren't.
With a name like Valve getting in there and getting AMD like directly partnering with them to like
Mm-hmm.
you know do this like you know
And-
get new like no other like handheld PC like this has had like this new RDNA 2 graphics stuff in it. It's all been like Vega, which is you know lower powered.
Yeah. And
So
this,
hopefully
this,
this will be
this totally kind of fucks with the what was it, like the Aya Neo, and what was the other one you mentioned the other day, Pat? Like the
GPD.
other GPD, yeah, or like NVIDIA
Well,
Shield. Like it's much different than
the
any of those
Neo
two.
is like really expensive.
But that's the
like
thing.
$1,000.
The GPD Win 3, which is the most recent one, is
also
$1,300.
$1,000,
Is $1,100. It's $1,139.
Yeah, they're
um,
expensive,
And so that's
And-
what I was going to say is
and
this
they're
device.
Windows PCs.
Yeah, this device potentially could beat them out in terms of performance. I mean, it's hard to say
Yeah.
for sure until we put them side by side, but it's also way more. The pricing is very high on first glance on the Steam Deck. If you're talking about like the higher end models. And I think the $399 one, it's very important to keep in mind for anybody who's looking at this as like their first foray into some kind of PC gaming. I think the $399 one is good value. It's very small storage though for PC games.
And
if you're
it's gonna
talking
be
about
slow.
And
It's
it
gonna
has
be like as slow as the Switch. So
That's true, but it does have an option for SD.
It does,
SD cards,
which is great and important.
Which is good.
expandable.
But also, if you want to buy a 100 GB micro SD card, I mean, that's
Is
additional
it micro
costs.
SD?
It's micro SD, as far as I know. Like, they're not like necessarily prohibitively expensive. Like, I'm looking at a 256 gig Samsung card, micro SD card for $50. Like, that's not the end of the world, but it is another $50. You know, like so. My point being, I think to me, at least the mid-tier one is kind of like the happy medium.
Yeah,
Because
the
you're getting
NVMe.
an NVMe drive that can hold, but still that drive is now, it's not on Steam, so it might be moot, but that drive's not really going to work well for something like Call of Duty.
Oh,
I
just
you know
realized
how many
something.
people are going to be installing Call of Duty.
No,
on
you're
this?
right.
Maybe.
But still,
I just realized
it's worth
something.
keeping in mind.
What?
Do you think they're going to make some update to Dota to work with like a controller for this thing?
I hope so. I love playing MOBAs with
'Cause
controllers.
I would love to see what Dota would be like.
I would
on this
fucking
thing.
love to play Dota with
Well, no,
a
they got
controller.
the touchpad. They got the touchpad, and
Yeah.
you just have to.
Yeah,
use
totally.
that
You're
as a
gonna
mouse,
click.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you
That's
have
how you're
to-
gonna play
And-
Dota.
You
Yeah,
can, you
but
can
like-
map your abilities to the buttons on the back,
And there's also a touchscreen, right? So like, could you?
Is there?
I can't remember if it was touchscreen or not, but if there is,
I don't think it is.
Click dragging for box, like if you're selecting units and stuff, because micro heavy. Like the thing that would be hard for me is like, how would you play Enchantress or Chen or something like that, which are the micro heavy characters, or Meepo, where you're having to hop around the map all the time, because that would be really interesting though. I was looking this up and I typed in Stream Deck.
Yeah, see, that's
I don't think it's a touchscreen, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure.
But they do have the touch pads.
It does.
It does? That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
Because yes, it does have a touchscreen according to the videos. It also
looks like.
And
okay, cool.
Yeah, it does look
one
like of the. Oh, sorry, please go for it.
I was gonna say it looks like at SteamDeck.com. They're actually. If you look at the footage, it looks like it's actually running on it too, because they're showing Control, and Control looks like it's running around 30 frames a second, which is what I would expect on this device, which is kind of nice that it seems like it's an honest representation of how the game's running.
That's cool. But yeah, I'll send an image to our group chat of one of the things that came out of it. But yeah, and one of the pre-order bonuses or whatever for the highest end thing is a different virtual keyboard theme.
Okay, cool.
Which is whatever, who cares? But yeah, so it totally has a touch screen.
That's great, because that does make the prospect of typing on it a lot less
cumbersome,
frustrating. That Agreed. Actually makes Final Fantasy 14 much more playable on
on a Steam Deck.
On a Steam Deck, and I also like that it comes
pretty
with a
good with their
case.
like controller keyboard though. Like absolutely. They had some pretty interesting ideas.
It's okay.
Like, I'm not going to say it's the best, but it is a interesting application.
It's about as good as you could get for sure, but it's not great. But the I like that it has the case. It doesn't come with a dock. That's going to be available separately. But you could also dock it with the USB-C. They said if you just have USB-C to your display, it's not like it's not like the Switch where you have to hack it to get it to output. It just outputs over this USB-C if you wanted to.
Cool.
Back to the price. Gabe Newell for the what is it? What were people calling this thing? The Gabe gear.
Oh, right, yes.
But people, Gabe Newell was quoted as saying that the price point, specifically the $349 or $399 price point, was painful. But their Valve, they make so much money off Steam that they go, we sell this thing for cheap. We get people buying a bunch of games on Steam, even though you can install Windows, you can do Game Pass on this thing, you can do whatever. But people are going to buy Steam games on here because that's where people buy most people buy games on PC is on Steam.
I think this is the ideal machine for someone like Sam, who might not want to plunk down $1,000 for like a decent gaming PC, but still have PC gaming as an option, especially if you can dock it.
Yep.
I think this seems like a really, really, really good option for that. Because it's cheaper. Like even if you did the medium model, like that's probably the price of a mid-tier gaming PC, like mid to low tier. So and this is portable.
You can take it with.
And it's portable.
You don't need a desk.
Nope. Yeah, and it's much smaller than a gaming PC. That's for dang sure. But I don't know. It seems like a cool device. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with it.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, it lives up to expectations. In some ways it never will, but in other ways, hopefully it's pleasantly surprising.
Yeah.
Okay. Other new stuff. Yeah. So Elgato announced like 9 things. They announced like a new Stream Deck, a new Wave, XLR audio interface, 2 new mic arms, a wall mount for their like multi-mount stuff. What else did they do? A webcam, which seems to be very high quality, like basically the best webcam you can buy from other people, at least from reviews I saw and stuff. A whole lot of stuff. The mic arms look fucking slick. They got like a high profile one and a low profile one. I want it. I don't need it, but I want it. So I can just like pull my mic out. If I had that low profile mic arm, it's over. But I don't.
Over, you're done podcasting.
I can recommend.
I could just like you're just gonna lovingly stare at the mic arm and
Yeah.
you
I can
know,
recommend them. They're very helpful.
It's got-
then you can just move it
It's
around.
got like, yeah, they've got like a magnetic like tray for like the cables and stuff.
That's
It's
cool. Yeah.
it's pretty slick.
Yeah, we were talking before the
but-
cast that Elgato tends to make pretty good hardware. It's just it's usually a bit overpriced because like it's stuff you could do yourself a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And you could like probably do pretty well with it. Like the mic arm, the green screen, the lights, like that
Yeah.
stuff. Not so much like the
Yeah.
capture gear and like that stuff is very
Yeah.
niche.
Yeah.
But like it's more expensive than if you were to do it yourself. It's more expensive than even if you were to go
Yeah.
to some other third party. But it just works well. So
And it all works together well. It's like the Apple
Totally.
thing. Like
it's an ecosystem.
there are plenty of criticisms to put against it, but then also if you've got all the stuff, it works together and does what
seamless.
you want it to do. So
Yeah, like the new audio interface, it's like $200, which is a lot.
no, 150,
Or
160.
150,
but
sorry. And
yeah,
like
the,
you
the
can- you
webcam
can-
is more expensive than the audio interface.
Yeah, and the audio interface is one input,
Yeah.
which one XLR input, which is like that's kind of not a lot for the price because you and I again we were talking before the cast. Like you can get
Yeah.
a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which is a really good 2 input 2 output with preamps and all this kind of stuff for about the same price.
Yeah.
But it's
You're
not gonna be
paying
as
for the
neat-
integration of the software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It won't be as
Yeah.
neatly integrated.
and I'll say I think that they do a good mix of products that are like when I got my Stream Deck, I was surprised that I only paid $150 for it. Like it's when you combine its capabilities and like the fact that it just works and it's such a solid little device with the software support and how easy it is to make any macro you could want. Like I could probably make a macro that would like get everything set up for the podcast where I could just push one button and then it would pull up all of my applications for the podcast and get me into the Zoom call. So I was impressed that I got that for that price. So I think they kind of combine some of the like really good value with maybe some of these other things that are more like, you could get another audio interface that's better for the same price, but you're getting it, like you're saying, Andre, integrated into everything else.
Yeah. So if you've got Elgato lights, you got the Stream Deck, you got the capture card, you got the Elgato mic, and then you just like you're good to go. You just hit like one button and it's like, okay, I'm streaming, all my lights are on, all that stuff. That's
like-
neat.
Like you like
I don't
I'm
stream, so
yeah,
I
like,
want to, but
like you could spend a weekend with a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino and script up a lot of the same kind of stuff, but that's going to be a lot of effort. It's going to be a lot of bug fixes, and like you're just paying for something that works, and you don't have to think about that overhead.
yeah. I mean, I got like 6 memory macro keys on my keyboard right here, and I always forget about them and never use them, but I could for something.
Well,
I don't know what I should use my macro keys for, but
Truly the game changer with the Stream Deck to me is that you can it's a screen also, so you put little icons on it and they can be animated or not, and that's actually like a huge boost because it means that you don't have to remember what key does what ever.
The AverMedia Nexus looks really fucking slick because it's like basically a Go XLR with a Stream Deck built in, but it's like overall quality.
Cool.
Like it's like preamp isn't great. It only does like 46 decibels or something. Like it's not going to power like a SM7B. And then like the software isn't like super great.
Power?
It does, but it's not like super high. It's not like its power output isn't super high or something. Like it doesn't fully power stuff.
So that's
like
weird.
it's like a really neat piece of hardware that is
cool.
let down by some decisions. Like it's got like a built-in LCD like touchscreen to be like a Stream Deck, but
Also a
then
mixer,
it's also like the software is like iffy on it, which is a bummer because it looks cool and it's like all that stuff built in. But
it's interesting.
So Elgato, if you're into streaming, Elgato once again taking your money. Next
Bam,
up,
bam.
Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl announced.
Right.
It's got
my God.
rollback netcode, baby.
Is that
one
real?
of the only one
Yeah.
of the only fighting games right now that does.
That's very funny.
So people are like, hell yeah, baby, rollback netcode. They're excited about it because like all the Japanese made games don't use like rollback. They all use like GGPO, which is inferior to rollback for reasons I'm not 100% like clear on everything, but it's just better netcode that. But because Japan, I've seen people theorize that because Japan has largely pretty good internet, like they don't worry about like netcode like that. So when they're making the games, and then when they go abroad, it's just like, yeah, no, it's got this netcode. But I think even like I saw someone saying like they made a list of like games like, oh, no rollback, and Nickelodeon All Stars was the only one on rollback. But then they came back with like, actually, apparently one of these games on the no rollback has rollback, but that's just the state of the game where nobody likes it.
Yeah,
but yeah, this is a Smash Bros like platform fighter, but with
like
Nickelodeon
a bunch of 90s
characters.
Nickelodeon characters
Like SpongeBob, Hey Arnold, the Wild Thornberries are in there.
Yeah,
I did not see any Rocket Power, but I believe Rocket Power is in there. But I felt like that was an omission.
All right, I have a full list.
I don't know.
I have a full list if you'd like me to read it off for you here.
I don't need a full list, but is Rocket Power on there?
It's not a very long list of what's confirmed.
Well, okay, sure. Go
Helga.
ahead.
We got Helga from Hey Arnold. Danny Phantom. You got Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob. Zim from Invader Zim. Nigel Thornberry. Michelangelo. Leonardo. Both from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got SpongeBob and Patrick.
Excuse you, from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, so SpongeBob and Patrick. You got Reptar from Rugrats, that's pretty great.
Halt, I am Reptar.
Lincoln Loud and Lucy Loud from the Loud House. I don't know what that is.
I had no idea.
You got Oblina from Real Monsters, that's a great one.
Okay.
You got Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy. So that's what's confirmed so far.
Okay. Yeah, the no Rocket Power, that feels like a slight.
I'm sure there's more to come. Like, you ain't got no Avatar in there. Like, you ain't got Rocco.
It's true. Well, yeah.
And that has had a recent resurgence, so, you know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm sure they'll announce more. That comes out later this year, right? Probably.
I don't see.
Maybe not. I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they didn't even do like a summer game fest or like a like a game awards thing like at the end of the year. Oh,
fall 2021.
Okay, well,
yeah, so relatively soon.
It's over for Smash Bros. Yeah, they don't even need that last character. They can just pack it all up. The last character was going to be SpongeBob, but not anymore.
Sad.
Speaking of, I had a segue before, but then we kept going on the Nickelodeon thing.
Get it later, and I'll just edit it in, really awkwardly.
I forgot what it was. It doesn't matter. Persona 25th anniversary site launched. I guess 25th anniversary is coming up imminently, and they teased 7 new projects. To be revealed over the like next year. They said the 7th project will be revealed in like autumn 2022. So
that's clearly Persona
over a
6,
year from now,
right?
I would assume so.
Yeah,
or it's like Persona 1 dancing all noon, all afternoon.
I thought you were gonna say dancing all nude.
I was gonna say, hey, do you know what? I didn't play Persona 1, but maybe that could be.
I haven't either.
I hope that I really hope that they remake the first 2 Persona games.
That'd be cool.
I
don't know that much about them.
They're good. They're interesting. They're weird.
I know Allison isn't here, but I'm sure she would love to see like a Persona 3 portable kind of thing happen again.
For sure. Yeah. I think they should just put Persona 3 PES or whatever. I think that's it. They should put that on Steam and on consoles and Switch and stuff, but at least on Steam.
PES was
totally
good,
on the Steam Deck.
But yeah, PES was good, but Persona 3 Portable was.
I meant portable. I forgot that those were different things.
Yeah. Portable was notable because it had the lady main character.
What if they put out Persona 3 Portable and Persona 3 FES, but Portable was only playable on the Steam Deck?
That would be very funny.
Oh hell yeah!
Honestly, what they should do is just put out Persona 3 Portable or Persona 3 Fez on Steam with the lady from Portable. Yes, do a complete one, because I didn't like the stuff that changed in Portable outside of the new protagonist option from Fez.
It was weird in its isometricness. Yeah.
Yes. What was cool about Persona 1 and 2 that I would love to see remade is those are dungeon crawlers when you're in the dungeons, in more of they're like first person in the traditional sense of being a dungeon crawler. So they're kind of cool because you walk around in first person in the dungeons, and mechanically the same thing. But
the negotiations were way crazier in Persona 1 from what I understand.
And I think some of them were a little more on the problematic side, if I recall, but probably, product of their time.
From Japan.
So what do y'all think the announcements are going to be? Like, we already talked about Persona 6 probably next year, Persona 3 Portable, or Persona 3 on like PC, maybe on like other like Switch, PS5 or PS4 or Xbox, maybe Xbox. I don't know. I've never been on.
100% going to be something on PC, because Persona 4 Golden was very successful on PC.
Yeah, I would assume Persona 3 on PC.
I suspect,
if not other consoles,
all of the Persona games will be announced to be coming to Steam. I would like to see, and I think they could do a cool like refresh of 1 and 2 in a double pack kind of situation. Maybe not full remakes, but like bring them a little forward.
All Persona games coming to Game Pass.
That was probably where I was going. Like, because Persona,
that's probably part of it,
has been largely, as a series, has largely been on PlayStation, except for like Persona Q and stuff. But I could totally see Game Pass. I could totally see Switch.
In reality, what will happen is it'll be like a Persona 1 and 2 collection comes to Switch, Persona 3, 4, and 5 are on Game Pass, and then they announce Persona 6 and it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
And then there's another
going to be the
7 years.
The fucked up, like, just like all disjointed way they're going to do it.
Maybe. Did they ever do a fighting game for 5? Because 3 and 4 had a fighting game. But
so that was one of the 6, one of the 7. My hope is Persona 5 Arena Ultimax, which is they do 3, 4, or 5 characters in a fighting game. And like, who made it was Arc System.
Arc System made the last one.
No, not okay. Arc Sys is different from Arc System Works, which is very confusing.
I think it was the people who made Guilty Gear.
They
are the ones who made it.
Works, not Arc Sys.
I meant Arc System Works when I said Arc Sys. I didn't know there was another thing called Arc Sys.
I think they're different. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think it's just
no idea. But it was made by them folks, the BlazBlue people.
Yeah.
Who would you main from Persona 5? Who would be a good fighter?
Oh, that depends on how they're. I mean, like, I feel like Joker probably fits my play style the most.
He's already
maybe Makoto.
Yeah.
Maybe
you just named
I tend to be like
I like from that game.
I tend to be like a rush in and fucks with people person, and I feel like those two hit that the most.
I would love to see what they would do with like Hifumi, because she was actually the only other character I liked in that game, other than the two you mentioned. Because I bet she could have like some kind of. She played shogi, right? Yeah. So like they could have like some kind of shogi mechanic. Shogi. I don't remember how
shogi. I think shogi is a name. Shogi is the game.
Shogi. Yeah. There we are. That's correct. That would be interesting. I can't really remember any other characters that mattered. There's the gun store guy. There's the sexy goth doctor.
They're not dating sim, like actual, just like here's a visual novel dating sim of Persona, all the characters. You can romance anyone. But yeah, like I want them to do another fighting game. That'd be good. I wonder, it'll be a bummer if like, the individual announcements are like Persona 3 on Steam, Persona 1 and 2 on Steam or on Switch. Like, because they said 7 projects, so like that makes it seem like a lot, but I hope that none of them are dancing games.
I am not getting my hopes up. I think they will announce Persona 6. It'll be Persona 6, point. Persona 1 and 2 coming somewhere, Persona 3 coming somewhere, probably a port of Persona 4 Golden to like PS5 or some shit. And then Persona 5 coming to other platforms or something, and then a dancing game. And that's 6, right? 7
Persona Q,
projects.
do another
7.
Q.
Oh yeah, and another Persona Q. Duh. That's
those
7.
games were
that
great.
gets us a 7.
Persona Q 1 and 2 were both really good.
It's going to be like 6 ports or 4 ports and 3 new games, and one of them will absolutely be a dancing game, and one will be a Persona Q game, which may be good, but I'm not going to get into that.
Worst fucking rhythm games in the world.
That's not true.
I've never
Kingdom Hearts
them.
rhythm game is worse.
That is true. I think last week I railed against
that Kingdom Hearts rhythm
games of all sorts, and especially
the worst rhythm game ever made, and probably one of the worst, like, I don't know if you call it AAA, but like one of the worst non-indie games ever made as well. Not that indie games are bad. I'm just covering a wide swath here.
The worst AAA.
I just don't know if it counts even as AAA.
Ostensibly AAA.
Yeah. You know, from a major publisher, developer.
I don't know what other genres they could put Persona into. I feel like I liked Persona 4 a lot.
Persona
I liked Persona
Party
3 quite a bit. Yeah. But I feel like for me, as someone who was a big Persona fan, like it almost feels like they've started stretching that series thin in some kind of weird ways.
What if?
And like the idea of 7 new projects doesn't fill me with a ton of confidence.
Sega Cross Yakuza.
Sega, like
no.
just the
Sega Persona Cross Yakuza. Persona Cross Yakuza.
Okay.
That's actually a good idea.
That would be pretty cool. I'd be.
What if
it's like Bully, but Yakuza?
Imagine
Yakuza protagonist, Yakuza protagonist fostering kids.
Dude, yes. Imagine Kiryu jumping into the TV.
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if it'd be Kiryu
in the game.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It'd be.
It would 100% be Ichiban.
Yeah,
JRPG fanatic.
At this point, yeah.
But Ichiban
and Kiryu would be in the TV. You found me.
Oh man, Persona Cross Yakuza sounds fucking sick.
Fuka.
Atlas, call me.
It's funny. I was thinking about like the JRPG I'm going to play after I get caught up in Final Fantasy, and I installed Persona 5 Royal, thinking like maybe it'll be that one. But then I'm like, oh wait, but I also have Yakuza 7 that I could play instead.
It's really good.
Yakuza 7, very good.
They're both very good.
On the topic of Segma.
What?
Hold on. On the topic of Sega. Wow, that was Freudian slip. Topic of Sega. They've got a new game coming out this year called Lost Judgment, which is the sequel to Judgment, if you couldn't tell. And it seems like that sequel won't be coming to PC, despite the great success Sega has been having on PC because of super restrictive Japanese talent agencies. Specifically the one of the main character. What is the actor's name? I don't know.
Can't recall, but
I can't remember anything. I haven't played Judgment yet. I need to, because I saw this trailer for Lost Judgment. I was like, holy shit. Okay. Yeah, no, I need to play this game. Of course I need to play this game. It's from that studio.
Game. It's bonkers.
But yeah, so there was probably Allison would be more knowledgeable about this stuff just because she's into like J-pop and idols and whatnot, and is aware of like the talent agency shit, but they are very restrictive with what you can do with like what idols can do and what can be done with their like their likenesses and whatnot. And
the idea of modding is terrifying to them.
Well, the main character of Judgment is a very well-known Japanese like pop star from a band called SMAP, alternatively known as Bump of Chicken, I believe.
Snort Chicken?
Check on that. No, they are they different? Are they the same? Maybe they're different. SMAP and Bump of Chicken are not the same. Someone led me to believe that they were the same, but they're not. Anyway, yeah, they were like a boy band, like, you know, in like the 90s or 2000s, and very popular. They eventually disbanded the group, but are still like actors, models, all that kind of thing. And others have left this agency. Johnny's, who is a very large talent agency in Japan, and only this person is left and has been the main character of the Judgment Games. And apparently the talent agency has said, you can't put this guy on PC. You can't. No, we don't want you people modding him or anything like that.
Yeah, they saw what people did to Norman Reedus.
And Keanu Reeves and
Keanu.
Yeah, so it seems like that might spell the end of Judgment if they can't like put it on PC and make money there too, because hey, their games have been very popular on PC.
Mm-hmm.
And if that avenue is shut off to them, then it's just not feasible for them to keep making those games, it sounds like. But
that'd be
maybe
a shame. It'd be a shame if that's what kills the series.
The actor is a very prominent, or is into games and like is a gamer. I'm sorry, I shouldn't hurl that word around like that at people. It's, you know, they might be offended, but
he's a degenerate.
Yeah, so if he does like a Tom Holland, like, I'm gonna like, hey, come on, can't we all get along, like with the Sony and or Sony and Disney or whatever. It's like, come on, let me be on PC. Let people do weird sex stuff with my player model, character model, you know, whatever.
Bring it.
That wouldn't be the weirdest thing that a member of that band has done.
True. I was saying I don't remember if I said it in our chat or in like a Discord or something, but I will admit, I think it sucks, but also I would, if someone was like, we want to put you in a game, I would be like, cool, but I don't want my model to be used for weird sex stuff. Personally.
But this doesn't sound like the actor's decision. This is the agency.
Yeah, for sure.
We want control over every aspect of,
but were someone to provide that as their reason, I would not fault them necessarily for it.
You know, and Cyberpunk ran into that with you know, the Keanu Reeves stuff, and like, hey, cut it out with the mods, can't do that. Like, come on.
Yeah,
this is some Beyonce get that off the internet shit.
I think it's reasonable to not want your character model to be like used for things you're not consenting to, I guess.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah, no, that's 100% fair, and I'm not saying people should go and do weird sex stuff with his character model. Which is that first game even on PC? I don't even know.
I don't know.
That's not on Steam. So it might be only PS4, PS5 right now. But yeah, like a member of that band, like after they broke up, got like arrested for being nude in a public park. Like, yeah, and then like he's fine in like society. Like he still like goes on like comedy show, like variety shows and like media appearances. Like they worked it out. I don't know. Speaking of talent in games, Netflix is now saying they're looking to get in the game space.
Haven't we talked about this story before? Didn't we talk about this like a year ago? I feel like
I don't know. Probably, maybe. I don't know. I bet it'll just be like a streaming thing. Like, hey, if you enjoyed this, maybe you'll enjoy X or whatever. Like you enjoyed The Witcher, play The Witcher 3 streaming.
Yeah, because like they kind of.
Like Castlevania, here's Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, like they tried their hand at very simple gaming stuff between like Minecraft Story Mode and Bandersnatch and that kind of shit. But like, yeah, I wonder if this is going to be more like a, probably more like an Amazon Luna kind of situation.
I would assume, like they brought on people who have like experience in games, like
the Oculus dude, right? And like a Zynga dude or something.
Probably, yeah. They brought in people. So, you know, I don't, there's not much to say other than sure, maybe.
It's really, really not surprising to me because, like, if you look at, I mean, the programming world, there is a set of like the biggest tech giants are considered FAANG, FAANG, and sometimes you get FAMG to include Microsoft in there. That's Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and then Microsoft maybe. And pretty much all of those are in gaming in some capacity except for Netflix. Like Facebook has the Oculus stuff. Apple has Apple Arcade. Amazon has Luna. Google has Stadia. Microsoft has Xbox. Netflix is the only one without one. So like to me, it's extremely not surprising that they would want to get into that space.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see if anything comes of it, because people always say stuff like this and then get shut down before anything actually comes of it. So
yeah, it could totally be a fart in the wind. We'll never, if that's the case, we'll never know what it was.
And last thing, real quick, Resident Evil Village. Apparently, the DRM on PC has affected performance a lot. I wonder if that was what was giving me some trouble. It was weird at some points, but apparently, finally, the DRM has been cracked by pirates, and that version runs significantly better, which is interesting to hear. And I wonder how much longer there will be. Like that DRM is going to remain in it, because eventually they always patch it out, and like, okay, it's been like 6 months.
What's the name of the really intense one that they always
De Novo?
De Novo, yeah, whatever that one is. Like they like license it for 6 months and then they tear it out after like that initial sales window.
Yeah. And like it's. Yeah, I wonder how much that stuff like actually matters. So having it in there, it probably helps some. But
I can't remember the actual quotes, but there was definitely talk about it when Witcher 3 had been out for a little bit, because CD Projekt did not put copy protection on The Witcher 3 as a like power to the players, we're pro consumer move. They lost
nothing on GOG.
They lost a fuckload of revenue over it, from what I recall. Like there was something like
CD Projekt, or
yes, that there was a huge number of pirated copies that were being played, like very significant. So it's tough, because it's like, on the one hand, I think it sucks when companies put this copy protection on that compromise the gaming experience, but on the other hand, it seems like every time it comes up, it's shown that if they don't copy protect it, people will just pirate it and not pay for it. It's like, what do you want? What do you want?
There's an easy thing, and it's go back to in-game like riddles that use like printed manuals with like decoder shit. Like, there you go. That's what you got to do. And if you don't do that, then like a big scorpion monster comes around and chases you through the game and just kills you over and over, making it unplayable. Like, easy peasy.
Yeah, I love those old decoder
I would go back to that
wheels.
game if all the performance stuff was fixed, I guess. Like I liked it enough. I just never went back and like played through it multiple times. Maybe that's like a damning thing to say about that game, considering how much I played 7 and 2 remake, and even like 3 remake.
I don't know. You probably have a lot more to play right now too, and a lot of other stuff going on.
Like I'll get back to Resident Evil 7.
I think, or 8. Eventually. I think 8 was a great game, really fun. Yeah. I enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll replay it more, but I don't think that takes anything away from the fact that I really liked it.
And it's also not particularly surprising that something works better when cracked than when not. I think I've talked about it on this podcast before, how I use a cracked version of Pro Tools because it works better than my legitimate version of Pro Tools.
Sure.
So it's not surprising.
Definitely. Well, I think that is going to do it for today on episode 181 of the Gaming Fix podcast on July 17th, 2021. I have been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite RGB color code. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W, where I don't know, I'll be tweeting about stuff I want and don't need, and I don't know, stuff like that. Maybe some game takes here and there. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, and I'll probably tweet out. There's this race that I'm doing in 2 weeks is a charity race for the National MS Society. So we have a team, and you can donate and stuff. So I'll probably tweet that out on the podcast account to maybe get some donations.
Sure. Cool. And Alex, where can people find you?
I don't know. Probably in the next room over there, doing some stuff, writing some stuff.
Okay. Cool. You can find us on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, wherever that handle works on social media. Probably on, like, I don't know, what's a new social media platform?
Well, we're not on TikTok. Should we be on TikTok?
Let's get on TikTok.
Sam can do it. Sam's on TikTok.
Yeah, let's hire a Zoomer. We'll hire a Zoomer to do our TikTok for us. We'll get right on that. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Gaming Fix podcast. Stay wet, gamers.
Don't worry. Always am. Always.
I am damp now, and I will be damp later.
Okay, bye.